Hey, happy Saturday, everybody. Hope yours is off to a good start, or has been going well, or is wrapping up nicely. And if not, I hope your Sunday's better, depending on where you're at. I'm going to do a quick review here of a video that I wanted to kind of get to last night at Dawkins versus R0DI. I think that's how the username pronounces his name. I watched this one back when it first came out. It came out September 4th. And I seem to remember there was something in there that kind of piqued my curiosity, but I can't remember what. So I'm kind of going through it again live just to see. I remember the very beginning of it. There's a little trigger. There's a trigger alert warning I should give for anybody who has misophonia. Misophonia is I believe it is when someone experiences rage or extreme irritation at the sounds of another person's chewing. Yeah, I'm apologizing for Darth Dawkins because he sort of jumps into the middle of a conversation with his mouth full of something kind of dry and tacky, and it's a sound that I especially hate. I'm passing that on to everyone here. So I'm going to get started with this one, and then there is a flashback video. It's one from a couple years ago that a YouTube user named LancePlaysLoL. That was pretty interesting. Alex Ritchie, who's a Discord user, friend of Tom Rabbitt's, recommended it to me. It's an interesting one. So hopefully I can get to both of those, and yeah, we'll get started with this first one and eat that. And let's get this one going. As always, just let me know if it's not coming through clear. I've got it bumped up to 1.25. If it's moving too fast, anyone wants it slowed down, just give a holler in the live chat. If volume issues or anything like that are happening, just yell at me. I think I've got everything cranked up where I need it. So here we go.
R0DI, you're not on the list.
Sorry?
You are not on the list.
What list?
Mute list.
Yeah. Well, I am on the mute list. It's just that he didn't toggle the attack dog.
Oh,
That's me and Doubting Thomas. I'm sure Doubting Thomas doesn't have any siblings, at least not ones that he acknowledges, right? I mean, he doesn't seem like a caring man. And I forgot, I lied. I'm playing this at normal speed because the tacky chewing sound that pops up, I wasn't sure what I was hearing at first when I was playing it about 1.5 speed, and then I slowed it down to normal to get a better listen. And yeah, that's what he's doing. So I'm going to leave it at normal speed just to make all of you suffer as well, and then I'll speed it up to 1.25.
that's
No, the old
That's
list. The old list. There was a new bot implemented, so
Okay.
the people who were on the old list have to be reapplied.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Due to a structural change.
It won't take R0DI long before he gets muted again because he's such a dishonest piece of crap.
I love this. Darth had to get that out so quickly. He couldn't wait. Like he had to say that around a mouthful of food. Like, man, take a drink of milk or something. Just I don't know. It sounds like he might be eating like a peanut butter sandwich or something. It's that weird, like almost like what happens when you're stirring pasta that doesn't have quite enough moisture in it, but lots of sauce. Ugh. I'm gonna bump this up to 1.25. Here we go. That's right, Doubting Thomas. I forgot you have like an army. How many people are in a platoon? Is it 12? So your family, just the siblings alone, are bigger than a platoon. That's impressive.
Mm-hmm. He never demonstrated that. But
Here we go. Here we go again. You are such an effing dishonest piece of garbage.
Mm-hmm. Repeating yourself wouldn't make it true,
Did I make a claim that repeating myself would make it true?
No, you just repeated yourself.
No, you want look, dude. If you want to be in denial, be my guest. But you're not fooling me.
I'm not sure why you're such a hypocrite. You're just like interrupting every time.
No, I'm not being a hypocrite.
Interrupting.
Mm-hmm.
I'm simply pointing out that you have from the very first moment I interacted with you, and every conversation I've ever had with you, it doesn't take you long before you go into an argumentative mode. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
that's why I say you're a dishonest, lying piece of garbage.
Okay.
I don't care if you want to save face in every other room and say that it's not true. Be my guest. Protest all you want.
No, I don't mean to. Nobody actually believes you.
Well, I could prove it right now to everyone in the room what a dishonest piece of garbage you are.
If you want to demonstrate that.
Good. Tell me how it is that God does not exist.
Love this. He's going to demonstrate how someone is dishonest, and R0DI's like, fine, how are you going to do that? And then Darth launches into his interrogation, right? Like, he's not going to actually give an example of times that he's interacted with R0DI and R0DI has lied. No, he's going to start his script. So all he's done with that accusation is for anybody that's watching their interaction, if they don't know R0DI, maybe they know Darth Dawkins, but this is just a nice way of poisoning the well. Automatically. Well, this person's a liar. And watch that. So I'm going to start a little interrogation. You watch this guy, like this is the equivalent of like the Old West thing where the guy comes up and calls somebody a varmint and a no good liar, and they're like, prove it. And then he's like, oh, we'll prove it. Pulls his pistol out, starts shooting at the ground to make him dance. That's all Darth Dawkins is doing here. It's kind of weird, like Christian Yosemite Sam routine. Anyway, that's probably not the best example I could give, but I'm working on it. I'm still getting caffeinated, so. Greetings to you, J.L. Warren. Ugh, I hate that question. It's so bonkers stupid. Yes, it is. And this is something that I brought up many, many times because Darth gets credit from some people for being a fairly concise or a pretty good debater. Like, he's pretty accurate with his terminology. I don't know why people say that, because when he's in the examples where he has actually had discussions with actual philosophers, the philosophers clearly don't see that, right? Like, they have problems with vague terms and he kind of equivocates or kind of pivots on terms and prevaricates, like Darth accuses others of doing. But in this thing too, the way he asked this, like, he did this to Dr. Josh Bowen, and I actually saw a clip just last night of an older video. He was having an exchange with Alex Malpass and asked Alex Malpass, and he used these words: "Why don't you believe in God?" Or something like that. Why don't you believe in God? Or why don't you think there's a God? And so Alex Malpass, the first thing for him is that, well, people tend to anthropomorphize in their thinking. And I think that just because that tendency is there, I don't know that there actually is a God. Darth leaps on him and is like, well, it doesn't follow that just because people anthropomorphize certain things that there isn't a God, that a God doesn't exist. And Alex jumps right back and he's like, I'm not providing an argument, so that's not a fallacy. You asked me my reason and I just gave it to you. I'm not presenting an argument, right? Darth does this a lot. If he was going to ask somebody, why don't you present an argument to me for why you think God's impossible or how it is the case that a God or gods don't exist, that'd be different, right? Because that's setting somebody up to try to get into a philosophical thing rather than asking the question, seemingly, what's your psychological inclination towards God beliefs? That's what it sounds like Darth's doing. And then when somebody honestly answers, like Dr. Bowen did, well, I've comparative religion studies, doesn't seem like religions are all that special, start seeing similar claims in ancient Near Eastern cultures. And Darth's reaction, well, that's a genetic fallacy. Just because these people had faulty reasoning, it doesn't follow that there is no God that exists. Dr. Bowen wasn't presenting an argument. He was asked what his reasons were. Although, to be fair, in that time, Darth asked him 3 different questions. And most people, he asked why God doesn't exist, how is it that God doesn't exist, and then why don't you think God exists? So, yeah, this is I mean, it's carelessness to the point of being Weasley.
Well, do you want to hear my reasoning, or because I don't understand that?
Did you understand the question?
Well, did you listen to what I said right now?
Did you understand the question?
Did you listen to what I said right now?
Everyone, you see, it took me less than 30 seconds to prove what a dishonest piece of shit this guy is.
Can I ask the room if I proved him correct?
Listen, did I just ask you a straightforward question?
Well, I answered, but you didn't listen.
You know what, dude? Now what I'm beginning to believe is it's not just you're a dishonest piece of garbage. You're mentally deranged.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you are. I just asked you a question, and you immediately go into your deceptive mode. Okay.
The person that's demonstrating derangement here is the one that has jumped to the conclusion that an interlocutor that he has engaged with, like R0DI didn't start talking to Darth. Darth had to jump in and start talking to R0DI. At least, I mean, from the context of this video, maybe they had a little brief exchange beforehand, but now all of a sudden, this guy is deranged because he's either not answering his question quickly enough, or he's not answering it the way Darth wants, or it's somehow evidence that he's lying. this is actually kind of classic textbook Darth Dawkins stuff here.
You prove my point in less than 30 seconds.
Okay. So I answered your question. It's just the case that you didn't listen. This is why I asked you.
Here
if you
we
listened.
go again. You're wasting my time, dude. You're right on the brink of being re-server muted. Okay. Did I ask you a question?
Oh, you did?
Okay, good. What was the question? What was the question? I guess you want to be server muted again. I asked you a question. How is it that there is no creator God?
Are you okay?
Last chance, dude. If you want to be server muted, you'll get what you want. Now, I asked you a question, and I'm demonstrating to everyone in the room.
Makes no sense. It kind of sounds like you want that, Darth, and you're kind of projecting that onto R0DI.
What a dishonest piece of garbage you are. Now, how is it that God doesn't exist?
Wait.
This is your big chance, R0DI. Speak up.
See? Dead silence. See, this guy struts around arguing against theists, but when he meets somebody who's an intellectual challenge, he either clams up or he just lies and is argumentative. Now he's just clamming up because he has no defense of his atheism.
Hey, can you hear me? I'm sorry, I think I cut it out.
Yeah, we're waiting. Okay. How is it that God doesn't exist?
The example, well, clearly this man just scuppered off because he couldn't stand the heat. Yeah, sorry, my mic died or my internet had a hiccup. Oh, okay. No acknowledgement that I love this. Like, oh, all right, you piece of crap. I still think you're a coward. Anyway, on to question 1 for the 19th time.
Well, and then I asked you for a clarification.
All right, bye-bye. You're dead. See? It didn't take him long. Just 30 seconds, couple of minutes. Okay? It's the same BS all over again. You ask a simple question. What do you mean? What do you mean? This never-ending verbal diversions and definitional games. Okay? That was easy to demonstrate that.
The next day.
I think the more appropriate thing to say about science is that we conclude with those kinds of theories, therefore we don't have any credence to believe in them. Based on the best scientific theories, God is not an entity posited by them.
Can you repeat that last statement?
Yeah, so if you take the position that we are ontologically committed entities that are posited by our best scientific theories, God doesn't have anything to do with those best scientific theories, like as an entity posited by them. So we don't have an ontological commitment to God.
No, you will either when you invoke any proposition, it will either presuppose God or presuppose not God.
So R0DI is talking about ontological commitments and science, right? So if you are dealing with something with science, and I kind of touched on this with another video I was reviewing yesterday, like if you're dealing with physical science, and this is something that a lot of apologists like kind of blow up over, like how do you ground the laws of nature? Well, if by laws of nature they mean physical laws or scientific laws, those are grounded by observations of the phenomenon they're attempting to describe. It's not the other way around. If they're trying to equate physical laws with metaphysical laws of nature in a prescriptivist mode, then they're just either confused, dishonest, or philosophically, they're not understanding the philosophy that they're beating to death. But this guy's correct. You don't have those you don't have an ontological commitment of a God when you're describing this kind of stuff, because you would be multiplying an identity. This is something that science frequently has to deal with. And it's why if you have people who are not only scientists, but philosophers of science get kind of frustrated with apologists that tend to approach this, because apologists kind of come in red hot on this issue. And Darth is already starting to, and Darth is already beginning to equate epistemology with ontology. He's already talking about what you assume, it's built into what he's already starting to present. What you assume is built into your worldview, or something like this. But that's not where R0DI was going. That's not what he was talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
that's true. Yeah,
there's no position of neutrality.
Yeah, I don't take this view, but yeah.
But you don't take what view?
That there is no neutrality about God.
Well, that I've shown that to you over and over and over. Other people, again, I can show it to you definitively. I'll ask you a series of simple questions. Let's see if you can be honest this time. Okay, are propositions truth bearers?
Yeah.
Okay, so we could call propositions that are truth bearers what we consider to be a fact or putative fact. Facts will be context specific, unless, of course, we're talking about what is fundamentally the ground of all existence. Okay, so for any given fact, okay, it will be specific. It'll be actual and intelligible in virtue of a context, unless, of course, the fact in question is ultimate.
Yeah, I don't take this view of facts.
Okay, well then you have no intelligibility whatsoever.
Why?
You cannot,
that
because you
doesn't
cannot
follow. So I'm
have
going to rewind
a
this a little bit.
context specific, unless of course we're talking about what is fundamentally the ground of all existence.
Okay, when he does that, I always love that when he does that, he's like, well, you know, all facts are contingent because they're context specific, except for this one fact that isn't. Okay, so is God then a fact? Because it kind of sounds like you're violating the category that you're trying to define.
Okay, so for any given fact,
Mm-hmm.
okay, it will be specific, it'll be actual and intelligible in
Mhm.
virtue of a context, unless of course the fact in question is ultimate.
Yeah, I don't.
And that doesn't really make sense because ultimate can mean a couple of different things. Now I know from Dawkins' previous, you know, his assertions on things, an ultimate thing would be when he says ultimate, he's saying non-contingent. It's the same thing. It's independent, non-contingent. It's a necessarily existing something or other. Whether or not that's ultimate or not is a little shaky. And yeah, I wanted to actually word this because this was something I think Fergus had pointed out to me in a comment. It's presupposed no God, not God. Not God is smuggling God in, and that's a good point. I don't know if this is a sleazy kind of wordplay thing that Dawkins is doing, or he's even aware of how sloppy he's getting. So the alternative is X or not, you know, or no X, or, you know, because he's basically wording a God or not God, right? X or not X. The way X and not X is used is that there is an X or there is an absence of X. But he seems to be saying that it's either God or a not God. And when he's talking about worldviews, which he'll then equate with actual reality from time to time, it sounds like the only thing that he's talking about is just an absence of God epistemologically. And I guess that's what makes people, skeptics and stuff, they would be unintelligible. They're incapable of making judgments or sentences. Like the extent to that entailment doesn't really, he's not good at tracking how far that's supposed to go. But that seems to be something that he's not good at. He's taken X, not X, putting God, not God. But when he's talking about either in actuality, like in the world, in reality, the best way to actually clear that up would be to say there's God or there is no God. That's a true dichotomy. Not there is a God or there's not God. You know, a not God in quotes kind of thing. That starts presupposing something, like I said, in an epistemological sense, that there might be a God, but not in this person's worldview. And given that I think Darth doesn't, either he doesn't understand epistemology or ontology, or part of like his little idiosyncratic apologetic is to smash the two of them together whenever he finds it convenient to you know, do the Christian apologetic technique of essentially equivalent of choke a bitch out, you know, which is what he tries to do with any skeptic he talks to. I think that's what he's doing. He's just grabbing chunks that he can, smashing them together, and trying to make an argument that sounds tough, but it's full of holes.
Don't take this view of facts.
Okay, well then you have no intelligibility whatsoever.
Why?
You cannot, because you cannot have a contextless fact unless, of course, the fact in question is ultimate.
Well, I think that's just begging the question, right? So if you want to say that
you're not understanding what I'm saying.
Well,
The only fact that can be contextless, okay, will be what is ultimate, the source of all possibility. Okay. Now,
well,
unless a fact is ultimate, meaning it is eternal, unconditionally non-dependent and derivative and self-contained, if it is not that, then the fact itself will then be derivative and dependent. A fact will either be derivative or not derivative. There is no third option.
In what way derivative? Like not inferentially, right? You're
meaning
probably
derivative, meaning that it will be either unconditionally non-dependent, or it will be derivative and dependent upon something else for its actuality and intelligibility.
Yeah, but the problem is if you're defining a fact as a contingent thing, right, except for the one fact that isn't contingent, then the one thing that you have that's not contingent probably isn't a fact, right? The other problem with this too is that if somebody attempts to describe a fact, a contingent fact based on something, you end up getting into this weird, the kind of weird philosophical vertigo that a lot of Christian apologists suffer when they start dealing with induction, right? Like, you know, what you exist, that's a fact. How is it the case that that's a fact? Well, my parents had me. Oh, okay. Well, what's that dependent on? You know, and then it just keeps going back and back and back. They can't stop that. And the fact that they have a problem with that, they need that terminated. They think it's weird that atheists or skeptics or whomever, because there's even religious people that don't give a damn about this problem, don't have an issue with this, but they do. And so this is really just special pleading. It's just, they're just sticking a flag at a point in an imagined universe, in an epistemology that they're sort of, you know, that's ad hoc, and saying this is where things terminate necessarily, because induction and rhetoric and certain things about how we deal with, you know, because these are problems of induction and things are problems with the way we think. They're not necessarily problems with the actual reality around us. It's a limit to our thinking. But these guys seem to think that, well, we need to fix this on both fields. And unless you agree with our perspective on these things, you're wandering around in a nightmare world of nihilism and unintelligibility.
That's fine. I'm just asking, like, what kind of derivation? Because there is a causal derivation and there is like inferential derivation.
I'm talking that it's ontological reason for existence, the reason why anything exists at all. So
now he's getting into something kind of weird, and I really don't like it when he does this, because he plays fast and loose with this. It sounds like initially when he starts talking about this from that kind of perspective about facts and which ones are conditional, and there could be an unconditional ultimate fact which he can't demonstrate. He can just assert that there must be one because it fixes problems for him. It sounds like he's talking about how things work. But then he's just switched it around, and now he's talking about the reason why there are things to begin with. Now he's starting to answer a slightly different question. Like this, he's actually increased the stakes, because the biggest metaphysical question that you could ask would be, why is there something rather than nothing, right? And it seems like almost all of these guys are basically putting themselves in a position, well, they're putting their opponents in the position, hey, skeptic, why is it that there's something rather than nothing? Answer the hardest, largest, broadest, most difficult metaphysical question. And if you can't get it right, well, then I don't have to talk to you or even consider, I don't even have to agree with you about anything else. Everything else from you after that, just it must be wrong categorically, because you can't answer that question for me. When you ask that question to them, because God, that's their answer, but they can't demonstrate it. And and all of this is a defense mechanism to defend an assertion. It's not a demonstration. They don't have proof of this. They are only playing word games to defend an easily assailable position.
Either good. Well, here's the problem. There's not a third category. Either something is unconditionally non-dependent or not. Do you accept that last statement?
Unconditional non-dependent, or yeah, well, that's true.
I don't. That seems weird. Like, first you'd have to establish that there was such a thing, and then start talking about alternatives, right? I mean, because he's put skeptics in this place, right? It has to be God or not God. What you need to do, if I'm going to say that there's a God and you want to say that there isn't my God, then you need to come up with an alternative to the ultimate thing that I'm talking about. He actually thinks that. It's like, no. It's not, there is either my God or not my God, and then what you need to provide is your God. That's not how it works. It's there is my God or there is no God, right? God or no God. And Darth is either not incapable of grasping that or just doesn't want it.
True dichotomy, yeah.
Okay, well then you have to agree with what I said previously.
Not really. Let me try.
No, yes, really. Let me tell you why. Okay.
Can I just please,
because if a fact in you see, you're going back to your old ways again. It's not going to go well for you. Listen carefully. You don't know what you're talking about. Why don't you listen and learn?
I want to.
Now, listen carefully. No, you don't.
You want to listen and learn. Yeah, what people have been doing, and this is the reason why I'm still curious about this. If anybody's ever curious, like, as to why I have what praise the yam, I am the yam that he is, or whatever Mr. Potato says, that my sick fascination, my sick obsession with Darth Dawkins, is because this guy is playing fast and loose with a kind of apologetic and different bits and pieces of philosophy. He has sort of cobbled together a Frankenstein's monster of an idiosyncratic philosophy. Like, this isn't entirely Van Til. It's not entirely Bahnsen. It's almost as it's just as obnoxious, probably more so than even Bahnsen's was. But then he's trying to like lump in like kind of like just clusterfuck in an ontological argument with a transcendental argument, and then just punch up several appeals to ignorance in there, and then poof, he thinks he's got like a road warrior machine, and he can just steamroll any doubters.
Yeah, I don't think you do, because I've dealt with you on dozens and dozens of occasions, and I don't believe you. Now, either a fact is unconditionally non-dependent, or it is dependent. You have agreed with that statement. Therefore, all facts that we invoke, unless, of course, they are invoked to the ultimate and unconditionally non-dependent, require context in order for their actuality and intelligibility.
That doesn't. Okay, so wait a second. When you say context, do you mean a background knowledge or like a paradigm or something like that?
The context is the reason why they exist.
Wait, well, again, can I just ask if
the reason why? But Darth doesn't have a reason why things exist outside of God just made them that way. God put them there, right? So again, he's sort of getting weird about. And you can actually, I think, I don't know if this is like an issue for R0DI, but this has been an issue for me for a while. It took me a while to figure out what was going on here. There tends to be a thing where if you are inclined to some kind of either naturalism, methodological naturalism, something like that, you're not so much all that preoccupied with the why things are, but you're kind of fascinated with the how things are. How did things get the way they are? And a lot of what we have in empirical sciences helps us explain and gain a better understanding of how things work, and especially how things work together. And it gives us ideas about how things are emerging and how they have emerged in the past. We can kind of, project back. But then Darth is like, okay, but you don't have any reason for it. Like, this is ultimately, I think, what Darth Dawkins' whole point with this is, and this is unfortunately the case for a lot of believers. If you don't have Christianity, then then nothing matters. These guys are nihilists. And the only thing keeping their nihilism from blowing them up is that they've buttoned it down with God. This is essentially the philosophical equivalent of those people who are like, well, if it weren't for my belief in God, I wouldn't be constrained. I wouldn't feel constrained about anything. I would run around and murder people. I would abuse people. I would lie, cheat, and steal. To those people, you back away slowly, and you're like, you know what? It's good to see that you embrace your faith and your spirituality so wholeheartedly. Don't give that up. You go right ahead and keep on attending church. For somebody like Dawkins here, this is based on essentially philosophical vertigo or nausea. He can't. Without God, everything is just nihilism. Sort of the same thing that these people have when they're, embracing like total amorality, and embracing like definitively immoral actions, because why not? There's no cop in the sky, so I can do whatever I feel like. And it just so happens what I feel like doing is fucking terrible. Darth is sort of, it's really the same, different sides of the same coin, I think. But
what I said is true? Like, when you say context, do you mean
context is why does something exist, and how does it derive its intelligibility? Intelligibility is going to be derived from the ontology of why it exists.
Well,
Now,
that's fine.
But ontology is about the inventory of things as they are, right? Epistemology is about how epistemology is the study of how we think and what we think, and ontology is the study of being. What exists, what is. Questions about why they exist are probably part of ontology, but it seems for Darth that the why is the central part of it. Like, there's no reason for anything to exist if we don't know what the motivation was for putting it there. But then he's got this really childlike worldview where everything that's been put here has been put here by God. Okay, if you want to run with that and say your ultimate fundamental source for absolutely everything that created all of reality did this. That's the reason why everything exists. But then that entails that all the bad stuff that conflicts with God's nature and God's attributes and his great making properties is also dependent on that same God. And now you start having contradictions that pile up to the point where even referring to this being as the source of everything is self-annihilating and catastrophic.
Can I
Listen
just
to me. Listen to me carefully. The
Okay.
only thing
Mhm.
that you can say does not require, the only fact that you can assert that doesn't require context is that which is the ground of all existence, that is unconditionally non-derivative and
Look.
ultimate.
wait? So that's fine. Can you just answer this
Good. So
question? Because I didn't-
I'm glad that you accept that. So now,
No, I
since the facts that we're dealing with, the vast majority of time when we're discussing facts, we are not discussing a fact that is to be categorized as unconditionally non-dependent. Okay.
Yeah. Mhm.
Now,
But
if we are invoking a fact that is in the category of not being unconditionally non-dependent, then it requires a context of why it exists.
how does that follow? So look, when I say
Wow.
to you,
You know what? I am breaking this.
So he ran off at the mouth to do this in Darth Dawkins' usual crap. It's not a community college lecture. It's more like a really bad local TED talk given by some kind of local guru. But he throws this out there, and automatically R0DI's got some notes, right? And this is really the problem. This is why Darth Dawkins. This demonstrates how insecure and immature this guy is at the tender age of 60 something. You present an idea, you blurt out this whole thing, and then somebody's like, yeah, about that, I got a few things I want to push back. Oh, here we go. What are you going to tell me? Like, dude, if you want to bounce these ideas off people and get actual feedback and maybe get better at them, that's why you have these conversations. Sitting in your basement and mulling over this stuff in isolation, and then when you find something challenging, seeking out something on the internet that backs up what you're already looking for, classic confirmation bias, and then thinking that you've got that all tied down and looped up, and then running into a Discord server like a gladiator into an arena because now you're going to win at talking, is extremely immature. Like, I don't want to throw around the term toxic masculinity here, but Darth Dawkins might be the epicenter of it because he's sort of demonstrating like all of the kind of basic motivations for where that would come from.
Down so that a 13-year-old can understand this. Okay.
I understand what you're saying. Can I
Either
please
something is unconditionally non-dependent. Listen, do you
Or
think by you? Okay, listen. Last
Mhm.
warning. Okay. I have dealt with you on dozens of occasions. You haven't given up your old ways of being an argumentative, deceitful little bugger. Okay. That's why I'm not going to have patience with you. You're lucky I'm even talking to you now. Now, in the
Oh, so R0DI should count himself lucky. I don't think that he should. I think Darth's got that flipped around on everybody.
Christian worldview, God is that which is unconditionally non-derivative and dependent. Therefore,
Do all Christians think that? I don't think they do. Because if you were to ask somebody who's just sort of casually into it, right? If you're asking, do you think a God exists? Most people are probably going to have a hard time divorcing God's being without existence. Right? This thing is unconditionally non-dependent. Is that how Darth is putting it? Well, that would mean it doesn't depend on existence. But in order for us to talk about something that even comes close to mattering, it has to exist in some sense. If it exists in some other realm, well, now you're multiplying. Okay, so you're saying that God exists, but he doesn't exist in a way that we think he does. Okay, well, what does that mean? Now you've multiplied an entity, God, and you've multiplied an additional form of existence. And then when asked to describe how that's going to work, you can't do it, right? So Darth is sort of like just assuming that all Christians, like this is what all Christians assume God is. It might be the case that most denominations, Christian denominations, are sort of pushing an idea of God that's basically like this. Van Til kind of does when he kind of came up with the presuppositional apologetic, but it wasn't the weaponized version that Bonson developed and Darth Dawkins repeatedly, spanks himself with. But this would be one of those things where I don't know that people actually live that way, right? If they're thinking about God. When they're thinking about God, they're thinking about a very wise, very powerful person, a personality that can help them. That's the whole point. That's the appeal. what Darth is talking about isn't appealing.
Consequently, all facts that are not God derive and depend upon God, both for, to their existence and their meaning and intelligibility. Now, when you reject that, right, either
do you sin? I don't know if that question is for me, but I'll answer it. Oh boy, do I. No. I always wonder, like, what sin is it that they need? He was asking the Glazer guy that he was talking to, like, well, do you drink? Do you smoke the reefer? He didn't ask him if he drank. He asked him if he drank, and then, or asked him if he smoked pot, and then asked him if he was promiscuous. Right? I thought he was going to go through an entire, like, shopping list of sins before you. It's like, how pure of a person do I need to be to have a conversation with you, Darth? Aren't you told, as per the Great Commission, that you need to spread the gospel? Doesn't sound like you're supposed to spread it to, like, in-house people, but
either you're going to believe that there is something that is singularly fundamental from which all facts derive and depend, or you will not believe that. So which do you believe?
Wait, before I answer this question,
If you don't answer the question, I'm going to server mute you, because every time I've ever talked with you, you never directly respond to my questions. You're always evasive and deceptive.
I want to respond to your question, but you laid out.
Bye-bye.
What a coward.
Bye-bye.
He is a coward.
What a
Not
coward.
a coward. I simply am not going to deal. Okay, have it your way. Have it your way, Burger King.
Filibustering.
He never changed.
Have it your way, like Burger King. That's a deep cut, Darth. A lot of people don't remember. You kind of, well, I shouldn't accuse him of dating himself. He's constantly telling people his age.
Changes. Everything with him is an argument or a verbal rabbit trail in this direction. I feel sorry for him. Maybe he ate leaded paint chips when he was a kid. By the way,
then accuses him of being exposed to lead. Okay, well, that sounds honest. That was productive. So yeah, that was more or less just kind of a standard one. I'm going to jump into this one. Benghazi had suggested there was a 12-minute video from Floyd that is pretty funny. I put it in the description that I'm going to be doing this one from Rebel Ape. This one was suggested by Alex Ritchie, Discord user, YouTuber. I'm going to jump into that one now. Move that one. This is Darth Dawkins versus Rebel Ape, and this was from a couple years back. And this is a weird one. I'm pretty sure Rebel Ape is a Christian. It doesn't entirely matter, though, because since he doesn't agree with Darth Dawkins is, I'm sure most of you know, quick to accuse him of not actually being a Christian. So that's not surprising. Okay, before that, let's see here. If assertions without evidence can be dismissed without evidence, then we can dismiss strong atheism. No evidence for it. You could, if someone was trying to say, this is the problem that happens quite often with the apologists, though, Otangelo. If you're going to ask people why they don't believe in God, what you're basically asking them for is their psychological epistemology. What is their psychological inclination towards that proposition? Do they think that God is real or not? Right? And at that point, they can say, which inclination they go. You could even ask them, okay, why do you think you're inclined that way? And they can give their reasons. What usually happens, as I pointed out at the beginning of this video, is a lot of apologists like Darth, and I think you've done this too, will jump on that and try to say that the person's reason for their psychological inclination is some kind of fallacy, as if what they're presenting to you is an argument. They're not presenting an argument. You didn't ask for an argument. You asked for their reasons why. You asked first for where are they psychologically on that belief, and then you asked why do you think they're inclined that way, and they give it to you, and then they end up getting told that, well, that's an appeal to ignorance, or that's a genetic fallacy, or that's an ad hominem, or it doesn't follow that just because you think people made mistakes, or you think people borrowed from other cultures, that there isn't actually a God. That's not what any of these people are talking about. So that's one. Two, the idea is, if you're trying to say that atheism is only about asserting that there is in fact no God, then you might be able to dismiss that claim, because it would be very difficult for somebody philosophically to lay out an argument like that and prove that. There are arguments that attempt to do that, things like the logical problem of evil, which most apologists are not good at addressing. They're not even good at addressing them casually. So first, determine which one you're talking about: a person's psychological inclination towards belief in gods and the reasons for it, or their philosophical position on whether a god does or does not exist. Then come back at me. Until then, stop conflating things. If you're going to be honest about this kind of, like, if I asked you why you believed in God and you told me that you had a subjective experience, and my immediate response was, how does it follow that your subjective experience and feelings, how does it follow that that means there actually is a God that exists? That's a pretty dickhead thing for me to do. I asked you why you believe. I asked you what your psychological inclination was towards it. And then you told me. If I asked you to give me an argument for how it is the case that a God exists, that's different, because now I'm asking you to justify it philosophically, or possibly even empirically. They're different things. And now let me get you off that screen. So, and welcome, by the way, Ontological. Like and subscribe. Let's see here. Let me get this one started.
Actually needs any kind of complex argument in order to see that Christianity is false. You can just, if you can read and you can have a little bit of historical knowledge, it's easy.
In order to debunk Christianity,
the definition is quite
okay,
contradictory.
you're going to have to explain how your worldview provides for rationality.
What have you
and
done?
Well, it's very simple. The God of the Torah
You know what's
said, if
funny?
someone
When in an
predicts
open
something,
discourse,
I'm
and
sorry, I'm
anyone
going
who
to have to
responds to
turn
him,
some
he says
people
he's
down.
heckling him. He called it heckling.
Yeah, I'm going to apologize for this one. But this one, there's some interesting things that happen on this one, but it's kind of infuriating. This guy, I think it's Rebel Ape. He has to do quite a bit of like muting and stuff because people start like kind of over talking each other. This one's a little messy, but not as bad as some of these ones that I've seen. But
In an open discourse, that's hilarious.
Yes.
Anyway, as I was saying, the reason we can know that religion is fake is the God of the Torah gave us the commandment that if a prophet predicts something that does not come to pass, he is to be rejected. In fact, not only is he not to be feared, he's to be killed. The Daniel prophet that Christian theology is principally based on, with the whole second coming and whatnot, abomination of desolation, predicted that his end times events would be taking place at the time of the Seleucid kings, specifically Antiochus Epiphanes. This did not come to pass.
You want to give me chapter and verse?
Yes, this would be. This is going to be actually
DM it to me. So, which God do you believe in?
The God of the Torah.
Okay, is your God eternally loving?
Yes.
Okay. Is being loving being other-centered or self-centered?
Love's just an affection. It doesn't require either or.
No. Okay. Whom did God love?
I was going to get caught up on that.
Whom did God love in eternity? Himself.
I mean, he obviously loves himself as well.
So he's like Narcissus.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that's like
Christian
you want to make that
oneness.
comparison.
Can you explain to me? Can you explain to me?
okay, I'm getting a little distracted. So I'm going to read these out here. Let's see. Let's highlight these just because I'm sure he's copy pasting already. God is infinite everywhere. Well, if God is infinite, is that the same as eternal? Did he start to exist? Because infinite could just mean he's just, he started somewhere and he's just never going to stop. Only God is the creator of the universe. Everyone else is different, and as such, he is justifiably special. He would be justifiably special if you could demonstrate that that was the case. But you can't. And one of the bigger problems is that you shouldn't be able to, because if God fulfills a lot of the properties that you're talking about, you would be incapable of doing anything other than speculating that being exists. And the scope of your imagination would not take it into account correctly. And you couldn't account for what you call revelation, because you wouldn't be able to rule out that it was something other than self-deception, or if you do believe in spiritual entities, something coming from a demon. If you can demonstrate how you can do that without special pleading, that would be helpful. He is spaceless, timeless, immaterial, powerful, intelligent, and personal, which brought space, time, matter into being. Okay, this just sounds like William Lane Craig stuff. Okay, how would you, again, you can't justify this, because anything that, when we're talking about something existing, it exists because it's within space and time. Saying that it's immaterial doesn't help. That just gets, it's supposedly, it's sort of a way of getting you out of the burden of having to actually demonstrate it. It has all these properties, it has all this power, it acts in all these ways, but it's also immaterial, so you can't actually see it. Okay, these are, and some of these are not all great making properties, right? I don't know how immaterial would be a great making property, but which brought space-time matter into being, or space-time matter, right? The interaction between these forces brought the universe into existence spontaneously, and God is part of that? Maybe. And then let's see. These attributes must logically belong to a necessary being that brought the contingent physical universe into being. But that requires that you assume the physical universe is contingent. Can you prove that the universe hasn't always existed?
Explain it.
I'm gathering
How
verses.
you resolve the problem of the antithesis between justice and mercy? How is that solved in your rejection of the substitutionary of Jesus Christ? Mercy and justice are in antithesis.
One
How do you
moment,
This is
how do you
interesting.
resolve that?
moment, please.
So he's saying that two properties of God are an antithesis, which is true. God is all justice and he's all mercy. And Darth now believes that the only way to reconcile that antithesis is with Jesus, who dies for and atones for all the sins of man. Otherwise, God/Jesus has to kill everybody. But if Jesus dies in our place, God can now be merciful. The problem with this little analogy is that is not an antithesis of, that does not solve the antithesis. That does not allow God to both be simultaneously all just and all merciful. What it does is create what is essentially a divine form of a miscarriage of justice, where an innocent being dies for the sins of a bunch of guilty people so that God can punish something, because he can't not do it. If he can't withhold punishment, then he can't exert mercy. So the contradiction still stands.
Gathering the verses you requested.
Okay.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be eternally merciful.
But why aren't you addressing the verses he
Wait.
gave?
Christian, how do
Yes, he
you
never will.
solve that?
I'd like to hit that since that's
The incarnation of the second person of the Trinity provides a substitutionary atonement to resolve the antithesis between justice and mercy.
I want to point this out real quick here, because this is a classic one. God is love. Okay, well then that means that love is God. If God is love, how is it that hate can exist if everything in the universe is dependent on that God's creation? How was something so antithetical to God's nature brought into existence when everything brought into existence is entirely dependent upon that deity's power, ability, and nature?
His rejection of the substitutionary atonement of the Messiah, the incarnate second person of the Trinity, puts him in a situation where there is no resolution to how God.
And again, for the Darth Dawkins video here, he hasn't actually resolved that. That's a weird claim. I don't think I've ever heard anybody make that argument before. I think that's interesting that they recognize that the all mercy, all justice. Usually apologists ignore that, right? They don't want to deal with the contradiction of all justice and all mercy. But he's trying to say, well, Jesus's sacrifice, death, and resurrection, that he atones for everybody, so that deals with it. It really doesn't. And he's accusing this guy, since this guy doesn't believe that Jesus was the Messiah, he doesn't have that. So therefore, the contradiction, he has a contradiction. What I want to know is, Darth seems to be okay with the fact that until Jesus came into existence and until he died and atoned for people's sins, God had contradictory attributes, self-annihilating ones. How does that hold? Like, he fixes them when Jesus pops up, but Jesus pops up and dies around 30, 33 of the Common Era here on Earth, but God's eternal. So for an eternity before this happened, infinitely going back, without time, without space, that God had something within it, had a contradictory nature, and didn't fix it until 33 CE here on Earth, when he had his son/self executed by the Roman Empire. Bonkers.
Can be both completely just and merciful.
Can I have
How
verses
is
that explain
It's
that?
a Griffin
How is it?
God.
Well,
Suffering from
it's not just one
multiple
singular
personalities.
verse. It's a theme that runs throughout the Old and New Testament. If you are merciful, then judgment
kill
is
someone.
withheld. If judgment is administered, then you don't have mercy. Now, how does he account that there will be any human beings who are sinners who escape the judgment of God in eternity? How is that resolved? He has no resolution to it.
So
How would it apply beforehand? If these are antithetical properties, did everybody that get killed before Jesus had a chance to atone for people's sins? Do they all go to heaven, or do all of them go to hell? Which one? Because he has both properties, but Darth is defaulting to the justice one. Christians do this all the time. God has to punish. No. How come they don't default to God must forgive? Because both are true if he's all just and all merciful.
I posted the links to both to Darth and for anyone who wants.
Oh shit! Is that Dawkins?
The devil himself.
I don't know who that was, but that
Second
was
person of the
hilarious.
Trinity,
Thank
you mean
God you're
Jesus
back.
himself?
Batman was fucking awful.
Anyway,
Yeah,
can we please?
I agree with that.
Yeah, keep it on track. I want to see him get PTFO'd.
All right. So anyway, the answer to his question is that there will be a is essentially his own answer. There's going to be a Jesus-like individual in the future. It's just not.
How can a mere creature provide a substitutionary atonement?
Well, it'll be God. Like we can tell this. From
Okay. So you're saying that there will be a future substitutionary atonement? How do you
Yes.
know that?
Because the Bible
Where is
predicts
that?
it.
Where?
The Bible predicts in Isaiah 53 that this Messiah will come and be killed for the benefit of others.
Okay. So you say that that's future.
Yeah.
Okay. Is your God a monad or multi-personal?
The Old Testament.
Gonad? Am I right? I'm sorry. It's childish. I know where he's going with this. This is where things start to kind of throw me off, because this guy does believe in the Trinity. So some of what he's actually presenting, I've heard similar arguments against the divinity of Jesus from, people like Tovia Singer, people within Judaism and who engage in kind of apologetics for Judaism. And in a lot of cases, they're usually Tovia Singer's often he sort of like dismantles Christianity, quote unquote, or is like kind of like trying to open up the hood and like tear it apart, and kind of he's basically trying to pull Judaism out of it. Like, I know that you want to say that this all works together, but I'm here to show you that it doesn't. His videos are quite funny. I don't believe in Judaism, but I think I'd probably be more inclined than Christianity anyway. Because at least with Judaism, you have the law, and you have the way that you mitigate God's justice and his mercy. God is merciful to you if you obey the law. He will use justice on you if you violate the law, right? So it's anthropomorphized. I don't think that I don't believe in it, but it sort of makes sense. Christians end up running into this weird problem, and most of it has to do with the fact that they have a Messiah that forgives everybody. They run into this contradiction where God is all merciful, but he's all just. And well, we can get out of the justice part by saying that, he got to kill at least one thing himself, his son, Jesus. And so that satisfies the need for the justice part. And that allows him to then be merciful towards everybody else. That's not what mercy is. They're now redefining mercy, and they're placing justice above mercy. The reason that they're an antithesis is because they would have to both be equal. So it's weird to see them. It's telling to see a lot of Christian apologists default to he must judge. I don't often see them default to he must forgive, unless they might be like a universalist or something.
It suggests multi-personal.
Okay. It suggests that, but is that definitive?
Yes, I would say so.
Does it necessarily follow?
Yes, I think it does.
Where?
There are lines where he says, "I'm going to call," or like he says, "I'm going to call fire from heaven from Yahweh," which is like
right. Does that necessitate that God is multi-personal?
Yes, it does.
No, it doesn't. It can suggest it. It could foreshadow it, but it doesn't necessitate it.
I mean, well, if you want, like, I'm trying to give you proof.
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't necessitate it. Does it foreshadow that God is multi-personal? Yeah, but it doesn't.
That it foreshadows that God is multi-personal. What foreshadowing usually is usually something that is predicting something that's going to happen. How do you foreshadow that God is multi-personal? I have tons of questions about this. I'll probably never get a chance to ask Darth about this. Does he think that God becomes fully like the Trinity happens after Jesus is born? Or was God always a Trinity? That's a weird dogmatic doctrinal debate that occurs. And the way he's talking about it is kind of weird. He's probably just being sloppy with his language. The idea like, oh, it's foreshadowing his multi-component personality. Remember, Darth Dawkins also believes that God is essentially simple, right? He's not made of parts, because then he would be some kind of weird abstract set, and that wouldn't make him ultimate, per Darth's understanding of it. It's God is one in three. The best explanation that I've heard from other apologists is just to insist that, that explanation of the Trinity is a mystery. Darth treats it like it's a math, like a math proof.
It's not. It doesn't necessarily.
3 persons, 1 substance. Okay, if that's the case, Ontangelo, then you essentially then what would that mean? 3 persons, 1 substance. What does that really? Think about that. What does that entail for the properties of God?
Really follow. I mean, I accept that this is a foreshadowing and a hinting at the triune nature of God. Okay, where did you get the idea that God is triune?
I believe it's pre-biblical revelation, personally.
No. Excuse
Here we
me.
go.
Is your God 2 persons, 3 persons, 4 persons, 5 persons?
He's 3.
How do you know that?
It's pre-biblical revelation.
What's that?
It's like the laws of logic. You couldn't have read the Bible without first knowing the laws. Of logic.
Okay. Well, the only way that we could know that God is multi-personal and triune was by a special and a direct revelation. So where is that?
I agree. It's pre-biblical.
No, sir. Where is it? Where'd you get this from?
I just want to point out for anybody that's listening is not distracted by some of the back and forth going on with Ontangelo in the live chat. This is interesting. Listen to the way that Darth is asking this guy these questions. He sounds a lot like an atheist or a skeptic quizzing a Christian on specifically on this topic, revelation.
From God.
Where?
What does that mean? Like, it came from God.
Yeah. How do you know that? Where? What's the source?
It's God. Like, once you have a revelation from God, you can't appeal for anything.
Yeah,
else.
you're begging the question.
Well, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, you can't have a non-circular proof for the foundations.
That's not what we're talking about. And what you're doing now is very obvious to me. Is that you're trolling? You're seeking to do a parody of the Christian worldview.
Okay, listen.
Yeah, no. What you're doing? Listen to me. Where is your special level revelation? Where is it?
It's from God.
Where?
I don't know what that means to say.
Were you there?
No, he revealed it to me at the moment of my birth or coming into being.
Oh, you were given a special revelation that God is triune?
Necessarily.
Okay, see now I know you're trolling. Now I know the game is playing.
Yeah, get him out of here.
You can go with harm.
That is the deceitful, dishonest route that you would take. That you're now just making this crap up. First you told me that special revelation was in the distant past, and now you're saying you're the special recipient of it. You're making this up as you go along.
That's actually not what he was really getting at, but it's interesting to see Darth push back on this, right? He's automatically skeptical of somebody's claim of revelation. And I've heard this before from Christians where there's only been 2 or 3 revelations, and then the church is settled on them. Anybody else that comes along and tries to say that they have another revelation is probably a cult leader, right? But the weird thing about that is they forget all the other revelations that occur within even just say like the New Testament. I believe Peter experiences direct visions from God. Those are separate revelations. Paul definitely does. That's the whole point of the Damascus Road experience that he has. And even the book of the Revelation of John, right? The book of Revelation. That's called the Apocalypse of St. John. Apocalypse means the revealing or unveiling. He has a special revelation that he then wrote down. Now, it was a special revelation for him because God's basically beaming this directly into his head, right? And then it gets canonized in the Bible, and so it's special revelation for us. It's the Word of God. It's kind of weird to see Christians fight amongst themselves, believers, I should say, fight amongst themselves about what is and is not revelation when they kind of cherry pick what it is, even within a collection of books they believe is the special revelation of their God.
Look, dude, you can go to Carm if you
No,
want.
we're
to go to
done.
Carm.
Listen. The people that I do not have patience for are people who lie to me.
I'm not
And
lying.
there's no. Yeah, you are, because you're just making this stuff
You
up.
can go to Carm.
Where is the special revelation?
Everyone.
In the
I'm going to
past,
defend myself.
where is the special revelation?
I'm going to stop this right now because Otangelo just said something that I want to push back on. It can't be. Change entails that it cannot be internal. Okay. God is not made of physical stuff, but a spirit. Okay. So when you said 3 persons, 1 substance, the substance is not a substance. It's a spirit. So you want to amend the previous statement that you said? Because now it's things are getting less clear. I'm only catching these occasionally, like out of the corner of my eye. So if I'm completely out of whack, correct me, either Otangelo or Henry.
That God is triune in the past. Where is it?
It came to like everyone who has revealed this truth.
Where did
Like
you
it's
get that from?
pre-biblical.
Like he's demanding how this guy got revelation that God was triune in the past. And this makes me wonder because it really makes me question whether or not Darth thinks that whether or not Darth believes that God was always triune.
I don't know how to explain this to you.
Where did you get that from?
From him.
Where did you get that from?
It's revelation from God.
It's like instantly like communicated to you at the moment of your mind's creation. It's necessarily the case, otherwise you couldn't account for anything.
And I got to push back on Revelate because that just sounds like some rich creamery butter, right? That's some woo.
All human beings receive a direct special revelation that God is triune.
Yes.
Where did you get that from?
Just told you.
I never received a special revelation that was a specific communication to me, a thought in my head. The way I learned about God's being a.
Before he goes on to his explanation is interesting. What he claims is a special revelation. But that's interesting because they will ridicule skeptics and atheists who go on to have these discussions with them and say, I never got a special revelation. I never got an image. I never even felt inclined to think that this was real. Where did you get it from? Well, it's in the Bible, or you pray, or something, right? And then things get a little vague, a little dicey. But now he's going to say how he got this, and this is an interesting source.
A triunity was through his special revelation through the prophets. I didn't get that.
So he received special revelation by reading the prophets, which would be in the Old Testament, and it's the prophets are predicting the Messiah, he believes, right? So does he believe that the triune nature of God has always been the case? Or does he believe that God becomes triune upon Jesus, either being born or suffering and dying or resurrecting or what? If it is the case that he becomes triune upon Jesus's, because there are Christians that argue about this, whether Jesus was eternal or Jesus wasn't, or there's lots of different arguments that happen with competing Christologies.
Okay. Now, you see, what you've done is, for a while there, I just thought that you just had bad theology, but you went a step too far, and you've revealed to me that you're just simply trying to do a bad parody of the Christian worldview.
For anyone who wants anybody who wants verification that I am the man that I say I am, they can go to CARM. I have argued for months with the people on CARM, Christian Apologetics Research Ministry. I am not.
Hold on a second. Did you used to be on Pal Talk?
No.
Okay. I could not care less about your interaction with Carm. The fact of the matter is, you told me that there was a special revelation in the distant past. Who told you that?
Darth doesn't care about karma because he's banned from.
Do you have an answer to that?
I'm sorry, it's like you cut out for me.
Who told you that in the very distant past there was a divine revelation that God was triune? Can you tell me when this was? Was this to Adam and Eve? Was it to Noah?
It's to everyone all the time.
Was it to Noah? No. See now you're being deceitful because now you're flip flopping. You're changing your story.
No,
You told me that there was a special revelation in the past that people got it. Okay, how do you know that the people in the past got the special revelation of the triunity?
Because he told me.
If God was revealing himself the way he's revealing to Christians now, right? He's revealing himself to people in the past the way he reveals them now to Christians. Doesn't that follow that part of his nature should be that he's revealing himself in his true nature? I mean, that's the only biblical way to get it, right? Unless he reveals himself in a way that you know it to be true. But maybe you've got questions and doubts about the specifics. Consult your nearest Bible for instructions. Check the manual. This is really kind of sad from Darth.
Oh, when did your God tell you this?
At the moment of my mind's creation.
He's answered.
When was the creation of your mind?
Answer a question. Are you stupid?
At the moment of my what do you call it, like fetal development.
Oh, so you received a special revelation when you were a fetus?
Just like you did.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. Alice, I don't know you well. Alice Stockholm, welcome to the chat. I don't know how long you're going to have mods, but you're going to have them now. Click. By the way, welcome to Simus. And thanks for the link. What is this? I'll throw this up here in a minute. Darth Dawkins versus Jabba the Hutt. Oh, good Lord. Tom, you crafty bastard. You just keep cranking them out. Okay. I'm going to speed this one up to about 1.5. If people get a little nauseated by the speed of this thing, I'm going to blast through this one pretty quick because this really just kind of sticks with these two guys just beating each other up over Revelation.
Of course. Dawkins, you claim to have special.
I mean, dude, this is the worst parody I probably come across.
That's not very surprising.
This is the depth that simple human beings who want to retain their autonomy will go to do a parody of the Christian worldview. I'm actually embarrassed for you.
Be embarrassed all you want, but in the end, I have done nothing deceitful. Now you can run away if you want, but if it was anyone else on the Christian side like to take me up on what I've said, if he's going to run,
there's no need to. I've already exposed you.
No, you haven't. You didn't. It's hardly surprising, Darth, that this is the worst parody I've ever seen because this isn't a parody.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to turn you down.
Would anyone else like to take me up on the offer?
Okay. How were you? So you remember now as an adult?
I would like to point out, since I've granted mods to everybody, I granted mods to one user, and maybe two users that Ontological had blocked. Please don't use your mods to block Ontological. If I see him spamming too much stuff, like if he just starts spamming chunks of the Bible, then I will consider possibly removing him temporarily for the stream if he's not going to just, But if you guys are having a conversation, I don't want to interrupt that. Go for it. But don't block or kick him or time him out. Unless, of course, he goes full PMARS on us or something for some reason, then if it's violent, racist, any of that kind of stuff, give him the boot. But until then, enjoy.
That you were given a special revelation when you were a fetus?
Yes.
Oh, so did you remember this when you were 8?
I remember it continuously.
Okay. There's no more talking.
Director, could you move Darth Dawkins to the sandbox?
Would anyone else like to take me up? Would anyone else like to take me up?
Sure, I will.
I just want to hear you talk. You sound.
You know what's interesting? You in the past, you're a child of Noah, aren't you?
Energy system. I will debate.
Are you child of Noah?
No.
Okay, now you're lying. Did you use the previous screen name Child of Noah?
So can you repeat that one more time?
Did you use the previous
Paul D, you have mods now. Can you see Otangelo? If you can't see him, then it's because you've got him blocked.
screen name? Child of Noah.
No.
Okay, now guess what? Game over.
What?
Why? Let me tell you why.
You're a failure.
I take notes on most of the people that I interact with. Okay, so that when
Let's see here. Hang on, let me gauge the chat a bit. How does one know if Otangelo has blocked them? If you can't see any comments coming from Otangelo Grasso at all, the one thing that you have to check is if you're automatically set up in the top chat, you might not be seeing everything. Click on that drop down and make sure that you've selected live chat to see every comment. If you've done that and you're not seeing anything from Otangelo Grasso, it could be that he has you blocked or you have him blocked. Okay, and I think Paul D must have been blocked by Otangelo because now he can see him. So, all right,
run into them into the future, okay, that I'm going to know a little bit about them in case their voice is not recognizable. Okay. When I first encountered you, have you debated with me before?
Not like anything in depth.
No, that's a lie. You have come on to my server a number of times. You came onto my server.
I don't understand that. He qualified it. He's like, not anything in depth. That means they have talked. And Darth accuses him of lying. The man makes no sense.
Server as child of Noah. Do you know how I know?
I'm sure you'll tell me.
Now, listen. Now I have the proof. Look right before me. Okay? When you came onto my server a number of times, you were even kicked from my server once or twice. When you first came on and started dialoguing and debating, I copied your username and your user number into your profile. Now, until I checked your profile, I knew I remembered your
okay. I think I'm going to wrap it up here because this one
was familiar. Okay, that I knew.
He gets into this whole meta thing that he had another username and he accuses him of being this, and it just goes back and forth. I think I'm going to end this one here because it doesn't really get any. I mean, that's about it. Like, it's really just an example of listening to Darth kind of put on a skeptic hat and just berate another believer that he doesn't have matching dogma, and quiz him about Revelation in a way that kind of makes it sound like Darth really doesn't believe in Revelation. And I don't think he does. I think Darth has read the Bible and he has reached the appropriate conclusion that God is the, excuse me, let me pronounce that word the way Darth does, appropriate conclusion that God is the only thing. You better bow the knee, because Darth kind of believes in a General Zod, kind of God. And anyone else who comes to a different conclusion other than that, deserves what they got coming from it. They want to get tortured, right? Because his God is just as narcissistic as he is. So we'll close that one out. And yeah, I wasn't going to do a new one, but I might as well since I'm on here. It's Darth Dawkins versus Jabba the Hutt. I haven't listened to this one. It's brand new, hot and fresh. Let's see what happens. All right, here we go.
Hey, YouTube out there. Tom Rabbittt likes to record these. Hey, Tom Rabbittt. Just remember, I can just give you a very simple thought experiment, okay? A couple of 1,000 years ago, guy sitting on the hill with the wind blowing through his lovely brown hair would conclude, oh, look at that. The sun is arcing in the sky, rises in the east, sets in the west. Well, look at that. The sun orbits the earth. But was that deemed regularity real? No, the sun doesn't orbit the earth, right?
Who answered that? You or God or science?
Can they
I'm not understanding your question, sir.
Who showed that the sun is the center and the earth revolved around it?
Tough questions for Darth. I'm starting to think Jabba the Hutt might be a witch. The real John Wick. Check out DD versus John Wick sometime. I think I watched one of those videos. But I believe John Wick, since you're here, you were featured in that that little. I think there's 2 of them, isn't there? I think from Tom Rabbittt. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'll have to go over and give those a quick review again to see what happens in that one. I seem to remember the one gets pretty contentious. Okay, so Alice Stockholm is complaining. Oh, Tangela's not even replying to Alice Stockholm. Okay, Tangelo, I demand that you reply to all interlocutors in the live chat. I have no way of enforcing that.
Okay. You're talking about Copernicus?
Would that not be science and not God?
No, these were men who believed that God had created an orderly world, and they came to a different conclusion of regularity rather than a previous conclusion of regularity. And those gentlemen, people like Copernicus and Galileo and others, all were God believers, sir. They weren't atheists.
Okay, but what difference? So it doesn't sound like regularity. The regularity wasn't really all that important. Like obviously, one group thought that there was a pattern of regularity, and they were wrong, and they were God believers. And Copernicus comes along and believes he's observing the regularity and makes an observation that happens to be true. So how is it that all parties who are God believers, only one of them gets it right?
I don't.
And by the way, science becomes meaningless unless you have a foundation of God as creator. Deny God.
I can already see that this one is gonna. Yeah, this will be my last video for the weekend, folks. I have a feeling this one's gonna put a hurting on me.
God, and there will be nothing absolute or invariant for which you to appeal to and defend as a ground for the regularity of nature.
That's not the point of science. That's not. You don't need a ground in order to then justify the observations of regularity. Those laws, those physical laws, are grounded in the observations of the phenomenon. You see you see a regularity. You begin to make hypothesis. You test the hypothesis, and you continue to go there until you get predictable. You have predictable results, testable results, and then you can start developing a law. Right? It seems to regularly work this way. That's the whole point. Start with a hypothesis, observation of irregularity, test it to see if that actually is the case over time, see if there are, well, you guys know. But most of you are probably have a better science education than I do. Darth, this is just, oh my God. You got to quit getting your understanding of just basic science from Ken Ham.
So you're saying your God is not needed?
Let me ask you a question. Are you sitting in front of a bong right now?
Nope, that would be a negative.
Okay. Have you been drinking today?
That would also be a negative.
Okay. Do you have frontal lobe problems?
So you're going for an ad hominem instead
No,
of
it's not. No, it's not an. No, it's not an
you're
ad
trying to
hominem.
find something.
Darth, it kind of is. If you're talking with your interlocutor and you're looking for a reason to dismiss what they're saying based on something personal about them, that's kind of, now it would be one thing if you started hearing things coming from this guy that made it seem like, he's being a little incoherent, he's missing the point, maybe he's a little inebriated, maybe he's a little high, maybe he's maybe there's a little something off, maybe he's off his meds or something like that. This hasn't happened yet, but Darth likes to throw this out like immediately, and he's doing this for his flying monkeys so that he can show them like, this is Darth Dawkins' version of virtue signaling to his fans.
About
what I'm trying to do is interject some humor into your colossal stupidity that you're giving me in response. Because your response is colossal stupidity. Now, the point is this: are you an atheist?
You pretending he said something he didn't.
Yeah,
was stupid.
Yeah, you keep on. Yeah, that's your colossal stupidity. Now, are you an atheist?
Yeah, I guess. I don't know.
Well, do you positively believe that what is foundational in reality, the ground of all being, is a mind? Do you positively believe that?
That would also.
How many people hear that in church? How many people get that question? Hey, do you believe in God? Well, do you positively believe that the grounds of all reality is a mind? If a church attempted to function this way, it would drive people running, screaming for the hills, because clearly Darth Dawkins is out of his gourd. Now it's my turn to add on. Sorry, but no, this has no real basis in the religion that he's even engaged with. Most Christianity is going to reach out by trying to more or less anthropomorphize the God that he's talking about. Darth Dawkins has actually created an apologetic where he has de-anthropomorphized God to a point where it no longer makes any relevant or personal sense. Like, he's trying to turn it into a philosophical and rhetorical or logical standard. It's impossible for it not to exist in this way. But then if he establishes that, it almost completely erases any of the stuff that you would get from God, like Jesus's humanity, his grace, his charity, his sacrifice. Even if you want to point out the bad stuff, you don't. It's a unique way to kind of cornhole your own religion to death.
So be a negative.
Okay, then you're an atheist, sir.
Okay.
Okay. Now, the problem is this. You want to talk about the efficacy of science. Science is only meaningful and intelligible in a world that God institutes, God creates, and sustains those regularities.
If God sustains those regularities, he could cease sustaining them. So science would not make any sense in a world with God as Darth has defined it.
God, then I want to know what it is then that is ultimate, absolute, and invariant that will impose and sustain what you call laws of nature. What would
Now he's shifting from empirical laws to metaphysical laws of nature. They have to be the necessary prescriptive laws of nature that he happens to believe in, not the ones that just describe how reality works, but they're the ones that are actually making reality work that particular way. He's asking Jabba the Hutt, what's your God?
Would that be, sir?
I don't know what it is.
So then
that's because it's not there. And if you're talking about empirical physical laws, the being, like I've said before, the being that Darth has posited makes empirical science irrelevant and impossible. You could do tests and observe regularity, but for Darth, that regularity just happens to be there because God not only established all of creation, but he is actively sustaining it, so he could change it whenever he wanted. So science is an illusion, but so is the regularity that it's looking at. Reality is an illusion sustained by his God.
You have no rational basis for science when you invoke science.
I didn't say I had anything rational.
Science doesn't invoke itself. A scientific method is looking to make observations about the world around it. Those scientific observations, hypotheses, laws, they're grounded in observations of phenomena in the natural world, not the other way around. Darth is trying to turn science into a religion and say it doesn't have the grounds to replace God. It's not supposed to. And given the God that Darth's talking about, most people that I talk to, most Christians I've known, would never posit a God, the kind of Christian God that Darth is even attempting to justify here.
Rational. I said I don't know.
Oh, but you wanted to differentiate believing in God with science, right?
It was God or science that answered the question.
So tell me,
not God.
Darth is he's just being dishonest there. When they're originally talking about this, he's trying to say that God is revealing this kind of stuff. Jabba's right. He's like it was a scientist who made a correct observation and showed that this was if you were relying on the special revelation books of the Bible, they don't describe the Earth going around the sun, the correct view of this. They give an incorrect view, and that's part of special revelation. And Christians love to flee from that. They just do not want to deal with that, or they'll try to justify it in some other way. It wasn't literally the case, or it's still special revelation, but God was working with the limitations of the population at hand, or the culture. All of a sudden, cultural relativism and historical relativism, all those things now all of a sudden are super important to salvage this view that they have of the Bible, right? And it has to be, because if it's special revelation, it's supposed to be revealing accurate information. There's elements in books of the Bible that are not factually accurate. So that's just how the Bible, those books in the Bible work.
No, science doesn't tell us anything. That's called reification, what you have done. There are scientists who come up with explanations for certain phenomenon, but those scientists, do you know that modern science owes a debt of gratitude to the Christian worldview?
I also want to point out now, just off topic, Otangelo is talking about tests done on the Shroud of Turin. I've noticed that Otangelo has not brought up the blood spatter tests, which have once again cast doubt on the validity that is a real thing. Blood spatter pattern experts did an analysis of it, and based on things like pooling, spatter, that kind of stuff, moving of the body. It doesn't seem consistent with a real shroud per se. I think that's not that there's inconsistencies there. He is bringing up some interesting issues, but regard to imaging of it, those have come up, but they're not conclusive. They raise a lot of questions, but they're not a conclusive example that that Jesus was actually that was Jesus's shroud. That you're still a long way from proving that that's the case.
Because it's only out of a world that believed that there was an absolute invariant God who had imposed a world that was regular.
What does this have to do with anything?
Okay, first of all, like I said before, whoever did Otangelo, if you did get like booted, it was because you were spamming the. Although those still show up, so I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know that anybody timed you out. I can't really see that happened. The previous comments are there. If you did get timed out, it was because you were spamming pretty hard about the Shroud of Turin. If people want to look up that particular research, you could just post them a link about that. There's actually a pretty good article, I think, in Time or National Geographic that was discussing the newest imaging tests and the blood spatter tests that have been done on it. But don't complain about that, because you jumped in here with another account. So try to chill.
Anything we were talking about?
Because you were the one who brought up science as opposed to God.
I was asking a question.
He didn't bring it up as opposed to God. This is unique. Darth is uniquely sensitive about this one. Like, you brought it up, science in opposition to God or as opposed to God. Like, that's not what he was talking about. What helped? What gave us the best description? Was it a scientist working with the scientific method, or was it something written in special revelation? If we'd gone with special revelation, we would still be operating under a faulty view of the world God created, according to Darth's slides.
Yeah, and we all knew what point you were trying to make.
Yes, because that is my problem with God.
What's your problem with God?
Out of all the questions that I've had answered, science has answered them. God has not.
No, that's simply entirely fallacious. I would recommend that you go watch the video.
That's not fallacious. That's this guy's stance. That's his belief. For him, questions that he's had have been answered by science, not by God. Darth is now acting like this guy has presented him with some kind of deductive syllogism or something. This is what I'm talking about. This is why people hate this shit. Like, a lot of common people just cannot stand talking to apologists that talk like this.
Video of William Lane Craig and philosopher. And may I finish, please? I strongly recommend that you go watch the interaction between William Lane Craig and Atkins, where William Lane Craig goes down a laundry list of things that science cannot prove. Okay,
they are required for science.
Yeah, and these parameters are required for rational scientific reasoning, but science cannot establish them.
Okay, that's if you're trying to say that they're not grounded. He's talking about William Lane Craig's discussion, I think, on Cameron Bartuzzi's Capturing Christianity YouTube channel with no, he says Atkins. thought he was talking about Scott Clifton. In that case, I'm not sure what video he's talking about, but
that's great. That's still not what I said.
But again, here what these guys are going with, if William Lane Craig is operating from this thing, well, science can't account for the laws of nature, or science isn't science isn't as grounded as God, or some bullshit like this. Science doesn't ground the phenomenon it observes. It's the other way around. The scientific method is a way of making those observations about that, and then those laws, the physical laws that are then formulated based on testing and observation over time, they are grounded by the observation. It's not science casting a pall over that thing and saying, this is how things work because science says so. This is a deliberate misrepresentation of two different. This is one of the reasons why, for a lot of different philosophers, they want to make science and faith non-overlapping magisteria. They should, neither realm should intersect. One is the realm of faith, and the other is the realm of empirical knowledge gathering and observations and testing, and they should not intersect with each other. However, thanks to fundies here and abroad, science, they want to make science their religion's bitch, to the detriment of both the religion and the science.
Can science prove itself?
That's not what I said.
Then what's your
anything
point
about that?
Yeah, we all know
said
what you're getting at.
No, you don't. You keep putting words in my mouth, and I'm not saying any of that.
My fellow Christians, it never ceases to amaze me, the never-ending parade of people who just spew nonsense like this guy.
That's all right.
What nonsense is
right.
this? I'm saying.
And it never fails to amaze me, the seemingly bottomless pit of bullshit that is Darth Dawkins.
That out of all the questions that I've had,
Science cannot answer the most fundamental questions of reality, sir.
In order for science, hold up. In order for science to answer questions,
oh my God,
science would have to
let me
exist.
finish my comment.
Does science exist, sir, so it can answer questions or not?
God, can I finish what I was saying?
Can science?
Can I finish what I was saying?
Yes, go ahead.
I said that out of all my goddamn questions that I've had,
please don't use the Lord's name.
Science had answered more.
Jesus Christ. Every fucking time with these guys, don't take the Lord's name in vain. You fucking delicate snowflake. Sorry.
Than God has.
That's false.
God, you don't have many questions.
That is categorically
to me.
That is categorically false.
Can that be categorically?
There's no categorical error here. He's saying that he's had questions. Science answers them better than God does, or some source that supposedly is God, the Bible, general revelation, whatever. If these guys want to co-opt science into the realm of generalization or general revelation, great. The only problem is that Darth he's already shot that in the foot. He's already claimed that that the universe is sustained by God. So regularity is simply just that which God sustains. God could cease to sustain parts of it, all of it, change it, alter it. So science doesn't really exist in Darth's worldview, right? It's only like it's really kind of odd, because one of the things that Darth seems to not like about it, and a lot of apologists are kind of on the same train, is that science isn't certain because it can amend itself. So it's not absolutely true. If you get new information, new observations, and it starts to change it, well, then it can be falsifiable. You could be laboring under the impression that the Earth is the center of the solar system, and then somebody like Copernicus comes along and changes it, Galileo or whatever. They start changing, that science. We get an accurate view then. So it's not ultimate. It's not absolutely certain. Well, okay, but the kind that he's talking about is even less certain than the science we currently have, because you could be observing regularity and then God could change it on you, and he could change it on you in a way that you didn't know about. You wouldn't have even been aware that the variation had occurred. I'd like to know if Darth can actually explain that. Does he believe that if God is sustaining the regularity and the natural order of the universe, that he could change it anytime that he wanted, and could he do so in a way that we wouldn't be aware that that he made those changes? And if so, what would prevent that God from doing that?
False. When it's, I'm saying it. That's what I said.
I'm going
this is
to
my
tell
opinion.
Wow, dude, take a chill pill.
No, because you won't let me. You're putting words in my mouth, and that's bullshit. You don't know what you're talking about. Can you explain to me? Can you explain to me without putting words in my mouth?
I don't want to server mute you. You need to.
Yes, he does. As soon as the word server mute come out of Darth Dawkins, he's already like, he is sweating over that button. Like that's exactly what he wants to do. He's waiting for it. The only thing that he's really wanting to do is time it in a way that'll get the best applause from his circle jerk.
Calm down.
Just tell me without putting words in my mouth.
I want to have a conversation with you. If you don't stop this hysteria, I will server mute you.
So just because you say something,
I wasn't born. Hey, listen, scumbag. I wasn't born yesterday. I know perfectly well how you're trying to bamboozle me. Now, I've asked you a number of straightforward, legitimate questions. Okay, bye, scumbag.
Damn it! You keep interrupting me and telling me not to interrupt you, and then you tell me what I'm thinking and what I'm not thinking. I'm telling you what I'm thinking. So stop telling me what I'm thinking.
Yeah, welcome to the party, man. Jabba, this is how things happen with Darth. So yeah, if you don't want to be strawmanned endlessly, have words put in your mouth, be presented with an enormous number of red herrings, and then presented a bunch of contradictions and non sequiturs, then don't talk to Darth Dawkins. It's just his mind is a snake bit.
This is inevitably what happens when you meet the atheist toe to toe, and they find
I'm not an atheist. You told me I was an atheist. I don't think I am.
Okay, okay, sir, you are being hysterical now.
Because it's annoying when you tell me what I'm thinking. You tell me I'm an atheist. I say I'm not. Then you insult atheists. I'm not an atheist. I don't think.
Listen to me for a second. I'm as serious as a heart attack. My patience with you has just about run out. And when it runs out, I will server mute you, and I will not unserver mute you. You need to conduct yourself like an adult, sir, instead of like a hysterical woman. Okay? Now.
An hysterical woman. The most hysterical person I have seen on the internet in the last 5 years is Darth Dawkins. I've seen him wail and scream and cry, especially when he goes on and on and on about how he's being treated and it's unfair and they're lying to me and they're deceiving me. You are an hysterical nitwit, Darth Dawkins. So yeah, back to the Ontological drama. So Jay timed him out because he kept basically telling people that they need to prove his God wrong. When everyone else is asking him to back up his claims. I'm going to weigh in on this right now. Ontological usually does this. Once somebody grants him some kind of charity for a little bit, he will start to play in the sandbox, insist that play has to go his way, and then abruptly throw all the toys out of the sandbox, stand up, drop trow, and piss on the sand. It sounds like that's what he did again. Ontological, if you're listening, you probably haven't. He's probably shagged off, but if you do hear this, here's the trick. If you're telling people that they need to prove you're wrong, you're kind of getting into an appeal to ignorance fallacy. It's the fallacy that you lean on the most. You need to knock it off. If you're going to end up doing this kind of thing where you want to present your God, maybe don't present it like you're a fucking carnival barker. And then when people don't like what you're hawking, turn on them and chase them around like a fucking axe, like a lunatic. No one's going to dig your sales pitch. If you want to present like the God you think you believe in, presenting one that's based on like your notions of, well, it's just improbable that there isn't one, is not super convincing. And then it sounds to me like you've based your entire religion on a piece of cloth from the Middle Ages. So for some similar logical reasons, well, it must be that because all other explanations are confusing and disagreeable to me. You gotta. I don't know what to tell you, Angela. Anyway,
more ad hominem.
Science. That's not an ad hominem. Go on the interweb and look up what an ad hominem is. Making a derogatory comment.
What an ad hominem is.
That's not an ad hominem. An ad hominem is that when you say that.
I want to listen to this closely, but I do want to address this because he's getting into something dumb. Okay. Otangelo, I understand that you're a BPA approach to the Shroud of Turin. Answer this basic question for me and for everyone in the live chat that you are now starting to aggravate. Are those studies of the Shroud of Turin conclusively proving that it was in fact a shroud for Jesus of Nazareth? Do they conclusively prove that? Because to the best of my knowledge, looking at studies like that, the closest that they get to is that they might have actually been a shroud for a human being, and that's tentative, and that's as close as they've currently gotten. Do you have proof, conclusive proof, that not only was there actually a person wrapped in that cloth, but it was, without a doubt, unambiguously, Jesus of Nazareth? If you don't have that proof, you can stop posting these studies there. You could go and find a comprehensive article that discusses a lot of the discussions about the studies done on the Shroud of Turin and post that link in there if you'd like. That might be more helpful for people.
Proposition that the person is offering is wrong because they have a character defect. That's an ad hominem. I didn't say you were wrong. I just said.
Otangelo, all evidence leads to that conclusion. The conclusion that there's a person in there. I'm asking you if that person is conclusively Jesus of Nazareth. There's two things you have to prove conclusively. One, that all the studies show that there actually was a person wrapped in the shroud. And then two, the identity of that person is Jesus of Nazareth. That's a high bar. If you've got that, all the evidence does not lead to that conclusively. It leads to it tentatively. If you're going to go with this one, what the hell is this? I only need better proof than the contrary. Then you are not arguing in good faith, and you are not examining this evidence in good faith. You are actively searching for confirmation bias at this point. So at what point, if you can present me a better comment than that, and you better do it, I'm going to ban you because I'm getting sick of this shit. Other people have gotten tired of this stuff too. If you cannot, you have just admitted with that comment that you are not debating, discussing in good faith, or seeking evidence in good faith. This is a game for you now. I'm going to fucking kick you. You're not going to piss in my sandbox.
Simply made a comment about your behavior that was derogatory, that you're acting in an unbecoming manner. It's not an ad hominem.
You said I was wrong, and then you said I was stupid.
Dude, you reason like a hysterical woman who's on her period.
So Darth Dawkins seems to think that attacking people with misogynist comments is a good way to make his point. This is interesting. I don't know why he's actually unveiling this. He's done this before. He's a pig, but the fact that he's rolling this out on Jabba doesn't exactly make any sense. So something about Jabba clearly got under his skin because now he's trying to really dig into him. And let's see. Otangelo is not addressing. All right, let me see here. What is this? I'm going to answer this, and then I think we all know what's coming. Oh, look, you operate on good faith. Answer my question. How can you substantiate your worldview without a creator? You don't do it by poking holes in Didi's arguments. Here's my problem with what you just said. Establishing a worldview with or without a creator is irrelevant to what you're actually trying to establish. You are trying to substantiate a reality that is reliant on a necessary being. That is different than my worldview. You aren't even capable of making the distinction between epistemology and ontology. I fucking warned you about this when you started playing around with Ding Dong over there, because this was going to confuse the issue for you even further. It's not a good way to get an exposure to epistemology and ontology talking to that psychopath. And now I see psychopathy seems to be contagious. How am I not operating in good faith? Right? Even if I was a complete nihilist, or I was I believe that nothing is even real at all, how does that exclude me from being able to address some of the arguments and non-arguments coming from this guy? You're playing that game of bullshit epistemological country club crap that most of you apologists do. You can fuck off with that shit. You need to read more books. You need to calm the fuck down. You need to rediscover your humanity, and you need to quit fucking around in Discord. Actually think about this stuff with your brain. Stop thinking about it with your fucking feelings. All you're doing is trying to find ways to ironclad your claim that there must be a God. You can't substantiate it, and you lose your shit when people start poking holes in it. You know they can. They've been doing it in my live chat this entire time.
Great.
Continue with your argument. Listen carefully, okay? You said science gave you answers that God doesn't. Well, the fact of the matter is God has revealed himself through creation and human history, but you deny that. And science has not given us any answers that God hasn't given. Okay, so for example, give me one thing that science has answered without reference to God. One thing, anything. What has science explained about this world that doesn't ultimately reference and depend upon God as creator? What would that be?
I don't know.
Well,
good. You hold on a second.
Well, the one thing that science would actually be able to account for would be some semblance of regularity, which Dawkins has already admitted he's abandoned. So, unfortunately, Jabba didn't catch that, but I don't think Jabba's ever talked to this guy before. So it's hard to like pick up on this kind of stuff, and how I probably wouldn't have, I might not have picked it up if I was talking to him now. And I spend my time going over his videos, analyzing things he says, sometimes line by line.
Second, now you just contradicted yourself, because you told me that science gave you many answers that God does not. So I called your bluff. Give me one explanation that science has given that doesn't ultimately rely, derive, and depend upon God. And you said you didn't know. So you contradicted yourself, sir.
No, because I'm asking a question. What? How can I contradict myself?
So this, and here's another problem. Darth is assuming that because of the way this guy worded his question, there's an implicit assertion there. Darth could have actually taken, if he was charitable with Jabba, he could have actually turned this around pretty easily. If Jabba's essential question was from the very beginning, and that'd actually be good to ask it, like, Darth, what was the question that Jabba asked, right? Like, his issue was that God, you know, for all the questions that he's had, science has provided better answers than God has. Darth could then come along and instead of chanting, oh yeah, well, how do you, how you know, his basic thing is to immediately trash science. Why doesn't he come along and try to say, well, what if God can answer this for you? Or here's how God can answer these other questions for you. He's not providing him any other kinds of alternatives. He's just fucking up everything that he's putting out there. And the guy did come in there asking questions. This is sad.
When you made an assertion, you told me that science has given you answers to several things.
Yes,
God
my
does
opinion.
Not. So that means
my opinion.
I didn't think that it was Parakeet's opinion.
Well, that's right. It's my opinion. So how do you know what the truth is?
All right. Do me a favor. Don't unmute him. This guy is like a historical woman. I wouldn't be surprised if it turns out that he's a homosexual. Okay.
What?
The guy.
So he's an historical woman and or a homosexual. Okay.
The guy does not know how to debate, you know, like an adult, let alone a man.
He's getting very triggered over something that hasn't even happened, and I don't understand.
Well, I'm working. Hold on a second. I'm working right now. I have to take a break, finish some stuff. I'm going to be listening in, but I won't be able to participate for several minutes. Okay. So
diaper's full. I need to take a few minutes and dump out this diaper. I probably shouldn't have yelled at Jabba so hard. You know, you can't do that kind of stuff when you're incontinent. Wow, man, this guy's a prick. By the way, I attempted to ban Otangelo as well, but it gave me an error message, so maybe I was doing it at the same time somebody else was. Jay, if you could let me know, like, who, I think you said 2 people have been banned. Who are those 2 people? Yeah, other than that, I think what I'm going to do now, I've reviewed enough. I'm going to put I've got a little bit more time here, so I'm going to post the link for the StreamYard if anybody wants to come in and have a chat. One of them will not be Otangelo. Sorry. If anybody wants to jump in, and then I'm gonna clear this out of here. And oh, actually, there was one I was gonna pull up, maybe just out of curiosity, because Benghazi had mentioned it, and that was Floyd's. We got on this discussion of Floyd FP yesterday, and there is a video from him, and it was somebody else had it on theirs too. I think it's presuppositionalism at its best, or something like that. If I can find it, I'm gonna. Yeah, presuppositionalism at its finest. It's a pretty good one in that it's. I think Darwin's greatest hits had done this. He used to kind of follow Darth stuff around and dismantled it very well. Oh, Tangela, welcome. You're the only one here.
Yes, hi, Jeff.
So, despite the rough and tumble that you had going on in the live chat, any comments?
Just a minute. Okay. Yeah. So what are you complaining about my interaction in the side chat?
I wasn't complaining about it. There were other people in there that were complaining about it. What I didn't like is that if you're putting other people in a position where they need to they need to disprove your claims and you can't prove them, you're starting to get to a position of obstinacy that's not really going to lead anywhere.
Right. It is actually not about proving things. It is just about providing better answers and explanations in regards of the issues which are in discussion.
Okay, but if you're giving one that's just happens to conveniently wrap things up, but then you are shamelessly multiplying unnecessary entities, you don't have a problem with making those kinds of extra philosophical commitments? They just happen to explain things so that therefore they're good?
Can you be more precise? What exactly are you saying?
Well, it seems like you're saying that, oh, well, this prevents a better explanation than someone else's. Okay, but if the explanation that's being presented isn't something that's demonstrable, it's just an assertion, it doesn't really have any explanatory power. You are just insisting that it does, because the opposite of that would either be suspending judgment on an unknown, or trying to strawman and insist that if it's not your God, then it must be some kind of horrible chaos or nihilism or something else.
Well, an argument starts first with the premise, and from there you go to the argument, and then of course some have an explanation, someone else has another explanation, and then we evaluate one against the other. And it doesn't mean necessarily that I can convince someone else that my explanation is the better one than the one that someone else has. But that's all about having a conversation, I think.
But even if you're presenting, here's the problem with that. If you're presenting an argument, right? If you want to turn your position into some kind of argument, even if you've got premises and conclusions and they're valid, it doesn't necessarily mean they're sound. You've got
that's what the conversation and the discussion is about. Which of the explanations are more case adequate or more sound?
Okay, but the situation is slightly different because the commitments are different, right?
No, I don't think so. I have the commitment to theism. Atheists have, positive atheists have the commitment to naturalism, and that's what we compare. Which of the explanations have better case adequate value?
But for what? Are we talking about how things come to be or why they come to be?
No, how? I mean, you can only use the why if there is a God which has a motivation. But if you say that there is no God, then there is no why.
Right. But does it? Okay, but
that doesn't follow.
That doesn't entirely follow. And also, the issue here, too, is that if you've got somebody who's trying to discuss some of these issues from kind of a materialistic explanation, they tend to be more interested in the mechanistic function of it, the how things came to be. It seems to me that most apologists, most theists are interested in the why, and then imply that without a why, there can't be a how.
I think the how is an interesting question. And many times atheists ask me, how did God instantiate things? But the same question goes to atheists. And once they don't even have a mechanism, then you cannot even explain the how. I mean, once you remove
you're
God
automatically assuming that your God is real.
Once you remove God from the picture as a causal entity, what alternative do you have? I guess none.
If you have, but you don't have a. Sorry, Samus, hang on. But God isn't just a causal entity in the Christian worldview. It's also the consequence. God, if God exists as a source of possibility, as Darth talks about, then that's basically saying that the God exists as the foundation that if I toss a coin, it might be heads or it might be tails. But that would make God. That would contradict with God's sense of omniscience. If it's heads or if it's tails is also dependent on God. So God isn't just causal, he's consequential too. So you start running into contradictions there.
That doesn't depend directly on God. I mean, you can toss a coin and it can be one of the two possibilities without, and there hasn't to be a direct godly intervention in that occurrence.
It has to be, though, by definition. If there's anything like probability or any of those kinds of things, they were engineered by this God. If he doesn't know the results of certain probabilistic actions that are happening, they happen to us because we lack omniscience. God is defined as omniscient, so he shouldn't be missing that information.
Well, God, he instantiates the physical world in order for these things be possible to happen, and he eventually, as an all-knowing being, he eventually even knows what the outcome will be if you do it, but that doesn't mean that he interferes directly in the outcome.
How does he instantiate the world?
Through his power and through his word information.
So that's not
can you actually
and hang on a minute. That's not answering the how question. And more importantly, you are trying to put that burden onto atheists to answer the how question when you're not prepared to answer it yourself.
Yeah, I did. I answered it. That's my answer.
No, you didn't.
It's not a how answer. You just gave a why answer, not a how answer.
No, I said how through his power and through information, which is his
That's not how. That's not how, is it? That's
yes,
just
it
asserting.
That's asserting.
That's just asserting. That's just asserting. Hang on. That's just asserting that there is a mechanism. You're not asserting that you're not giving an explanation of how the mechanism works, are you?
Well, it starts from God's mind. He visualizes what he wants to instantiate, and then he puts his thoughts in action, and the potential becomes a reality. I just told you how.
Okay,
but again, you're not telling me how. You're just telling me that it does.
I did just tell you how. If you do not recognize it, that is not my problem.
Hang on, guys. Whoa. Hang on.
Again, you're not telling me how. You're just telling me that it does.
But hang on. Tangelo, this is what and this probably is different than where Simus is going, but you've got a God that's visualizing this world and putting it into action, right? That's what you're essentially saying. How is it the case that God can then instantiate a reality that has causal actions happening in it and consequences that he's not aware of? Because you just said that's possible too.
I didn't say that that it has consequences that he is not aware of. What I said is that
if I can flip a coin, I'm not asking God to interfere with a coin toss. I'm asking if he knows what the result of the coin toss is.
I said he knows.
Okay, why does he know that? And how does he know that?
Because he is all-knowing and he has revealed himself as being so.
And he has created the world from that knowledge, yes?
He created the world through his power and through his word, which is informative.
Exactly. So he is not only the causal power of everything, he is also the consequent of everything. Do you believe that God not only created the universe, but is actively sustaining it?
Yes, I believe that. Everything depends on his power, on him sustaining it, correct.
Could God throw a rock at a tree and
Which God is this?
The God of the Bible.
Sounds to me like Vishnu.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Vishnu.
Otangelo, could God throw a rock at a tree and miss?
Why not?
Because that would not make him. Not only would that contradict with his omniscience, it would contradict his omnipotence.
No, he could will to throw the stone and miss the tree.
So he could miss it only because he wanted to.
Right.
So he is the cause and the consequence. That's a contradiction.
If he intends to throw the stone to hit the tree, he has the power to do it.
But he has to will it. He has to will not only the cause, which is him throwing the stone, but he's also willing the consequence. It either hits because he wants it to, or it bypasses his target because he wants it to. He is in control of the causation and then the consequences. Right?
Well, if he creates autonomous beings like you and me, then of course I can autonomously and independently to him decide to throw the stone, and that is outside of his will. That is my will in action, and he doesn't interfere in my will.
So, hey, Angelo, how you doing?
Fine, thanks, and you?
Good. So let me ask you this. If God created us to be autonomous, why does it seem like that there are some people? Excuse me. Why does it seem like that there are some people who seem to run on autopilot? That they don't seem to be autonomous at all.
Well, I don't know.
Do you need to repeat the question?
Maybe there are some people which have some kind of mental illness and they are unable to exercise their full mental possibilities, and maybe that's the reason. I don't know.
Anyone else have anything to that? Because that was my question.
I just wanted to. Are you trying to make an argument from NPCs? Is that the? Okay.
If you're asking me, yes.
Okay. All right. That's how I thought you were gone. No, Angela, I don't know how you get around it. Like, okay, it'd be one thing. So God creates. God is. This is how it follows for me, based on the traits that I think that you and others like Darth Dawkins and probably even Jesus is Lord, praise other people. That God is this all powerful being, the foundation of absolutely everything. However, the issue that usually comes up is that God's plan cannot be overturned, right? And this ends up getting into a lot of like thorny issues about how omniscience and omnipotence and these other great making properties end up kind of playing out for this being. And one of them, just the simple one, is that God would be the cause and the consequence of everything that's happening in the universe, and that has to be the case by definition because of his power and his knowledge. The other factor of that is that, okay, if God creates autonomous beings, humans, and they're capable of causing something outside of the will of God, right? Is God that makes God in his universe no longer ultimate?
Actually, Jeff, I just wanted to say something, because I just realized. Look, it's Angelo. I'm not trying to attack you here, but if I honestly found what you just said really, really kind of messed up, because it's saying, the people who are not autonomous, they have mental illness. Now that may be true of some, but not all. It took a while. I took a minute to register because I don't know what the fuck is wrong with me today, but I don't know. But like, you know what I mean? It just seems like insulting people who do have mental illness, but they have autonomy.
That's absolutely not my intention. But I can give you another example. If you drink and you become drunk, do you still have full control of your mental faculties?
It depends on the person, honestly. There are some people who can control themselves very well when drunk, and other people, in other people, in other people just lose themselves completely, and then, and then wind up waking up in jail. Like, what the fuck happened last night?
I wish I was drunk for this conversation.
I wish I was high in this conversation.
So yeah, Angelo, it really depends. It really depends on the person.
Yes, but you understand what I mean, right?
No, because
not helping.
If a person can affect themselves to that degree with alcohol or drugs, or let's say someone is hysterical or suffers from some kind of mental illness, does that affect their soul? Are you as liable?
Good question, Jay.
Are you as liable for sin if you commit it due to an impaired physical nature? Does that have any bearing at all on on sin's effects on the soul?
As a dualist, I think that the mind is like the pianist to the piano. If the piano is broken, then the pianist cannot fully play the piano anymore because it's broken. And the same goes with the mind. If you influence your brain and with alcohol, or if the brain is broken somehow, then your mind cannot fully exercise, have full control, or use it as in a normal state of affairs.
Well,
okay,
I mean,
hang on. I have a response for that, but look out. He's got his hand up. Go ahead, look out.
Oh, okay, fine.
Look out, you're muted. I think. Like, we can't hear you. I'm not showing that you're muted, but we can't hear you, Mike.
Still muted.
Yep, it's muted. Can't hear you.
How are you with sign language?
There it is. Yeah. Okay, I think you're back.
That was me, Bill.
Oh, sorry. Let me present my point here. So here's the problem with the analogy of if the mind is the pilot, right, and the body is the piano, then what's happening when someone gets drunk, right? The analogy would be you can pour alcohol into the piano, but you can't pour it into the pianist, right? But the opposite is actually happening here.
That was what I was going to do. Sorry, Jeff. I was going to attach that. Go ahead. Sorry. That's what I was. God damn it. Sorry, Jeff. Go ahead.
But the opposite is actually happening here. It's more like an AI kind of thing, that the mind is an emergent property of the body, right? If you're going to take on a slightly different thing. And it follows that it has to be, because the mind is now being affected and impaired by what's being done to the body. So is the mind the soul, in your view?
Yeah, that's a difficult question. I'm maybe not capable right now to give you a concise distinction between the soul and the mind.
Okay, yeah, but that's a good one. That's actually one that because Shannon Q kind of got into that discussion on Modern Day Debate, and that kind of infamous video that she had, and she was kind of bringing that up, like, how do these things like how does brain damage or mental health issues, substance abuse and substances, if they're altering the body, they're altering the mind, what effect is that having on a soul? That was actually her reason for doubting a God, was that she couldn't reconcile the contradictions that would be apparent with those issues. So I would encourage you to kind of look into that and explore it. I haven't actually found anything from apologists that give a satisfactory answer to those. They are tough.
I saw recently a stream of Michael Ignor, and he said that even a bacteria has a soul. I thought that was very strange, but if we say that the soul is everything that is alive, then that would maybe apply, and then there would be a distinction between a mind which has the capability of rational thought and will and can make decisions and can speak and think, while a bacteria cannot do all these things. So maybe there is a distinction here, but as said, I am not maybe the best educated on this topic.
Well, I just wanted to...
There is one explanation for the soul, which I heard many years ago, if you want it, which is simply to say, it's begging the question, of course, as most of these arguments are, but it's simply to say that the soul is the antenna by which we receive God. Okay? Just to put that out there.
Yeah, I think I've heard that one too.
Well, actually, what you could say is is the brain is the television that does that's the soul. What the fuck am I trying to say?
Hang on a second. Look out. Is your sound coming through? I tried adjusting the mic settings on my side a little bit, but I don't think. Yeah, I can hear your mouth moving, but I can't hear your mic. I don't know if StreamYard's doing this or what.
Yeah, I can't hear you either. Have you checked? Is there a mute button on your microphone? Looks like a nice microphone.
I turned off some of the default settings on my side to try to get his mic on, but it's not. It hasn't changed anything. So, and I've turned him up to 200, so it's not like a volume issue on my side of StreamYard.
No, just check the volume on your mic and then your settings on your mic, because sometimes that's. No, you're not going to check them.
Yeah, Jeff, I wrote.
You have checked them. Okay.
I wrote an argument about consciousness, and if you guys like, I can read it to you.
No, thank you.
No, that's okay. I mean, if you wanted to post a link to it or something like that, you could do that in private.
Yes, I can do that. Yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
I'm going to wrap this up now because I've been on for just over 2 hours. So I'm going to keep this one shorter than I did the one last night. So yeah, sorry, Lookout. I'm not sure. I've messed around with the settings on my side, but I cannot get you to. I can't get the sound to come up. So.
Spooky's just asking a question there for me. Simon Smoky says, "Is God digital or analog?" Well, this
can you hear me now?
Yeah, yes. There you go.
Holy shit! Finally.
So
Maybe too loud.
Hang on, now there's way too much gain because of the messing around that I did. So let me edit your mic settings back to the default. Let's see. There we go. Okay, try it now.
Right. First of all, my apologies. It was the browser thing that I had it on another application, right?
Gotcha.
Anyway, so I just moved it to this Yeti. But Ontangelo, right? Just one thing. Let's say I am a software engineer. I make a program, right? And you are the user, okay? You and whoever. Okay, but that's you. You use the program according to my design, my how intricate or how easy it was, right? You, the user, use it, and you fail miserably in X amount of things. Whose fault is it?
What is your question?
Did I say that in English, or you want me to say in Portuguese or in Spanish?
No. I just. What is the question?
The question is, I am a software developer. Well, I'm not, but I'm just giving a hypothetical.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
I made a program app, whatever you call it, right? Okay. And you are the user, the end user.
Okay.
Right? I made an application, and you are using it. A game, whatever. A piece of software. You are the end user. You use it, and you are doing things wrong inside of it. Right.
Right. Okay.
Whose fault is it?
Well, it's my fault as a user.
No, it's my fault because I did it. I programmed it in the wrong way.
Well, it depends. If you made a program which doesn't work, then it's your fault. But
no.
If it works properly,
I programmed it to fail.
Okay, then it's your fault. Yes, then it's your fault. Of course, right.
Ta-da! Your God made it that way. I rest my case.
Wait, hold on. I would like to add whatever you're. Sorry, I can't see names. I'm on a phone. But but I would say I would also say that if you're working on a game.
Slow down.
What?
No, slow down. It's okay. I can hear you perfectly.
Sorry, I tend to have nervous issues. Okay. So. If you're a programmer and you work on a game, you do your best at it, but the game still has bugs. It's still your fault, but you didn't intentionally make those mistakes.
Well,
you know what I mean. So God, and I'm playing devil's advocate here. I can't fucking believe this, but God could have been like, okay, you know what? Let me make a simulation called life of the universe. This is cool.
Right.
I can do this.
Then, precisely. And I'm the programmer. I made an island where I put a tree, a magical tree, of course, with a special apple that 2 people cannot eat, right? And by the way, I made a male out of dust, right? And I took his rib, his own DNA and made a female allegedly, and then they made kids with their own DNA of the male, which in science that we call that clone. Put that aside, right? And the two characters in the island, or one of them, ate the apple in my program. Right, I built the program with the fail systems, with traps. Right.
I mean,
who is wrong? Who is wrong? The person who eats the apple in the software, or the designer on the of the software or the game, whatever.
If you gave the instruction to them not to eat it, and nonetheless they did so, then of course the designer is not the one to blame.
It's part of the API. It's part of the GUI. It's part of the programming.
Who has to be blamed? Who has to be blamed are those which didn't follow the instructions.
But here's the problem with that. Darth, and I don't know if you agree with this, but Darth Dawkins said in a video that I was reviewing yesterday that it actually was one that I was doing now. The whole purpose of man, being cursed in such a way, and then them partaking of that, was part of God's redemptive plan. It had to happen that way.
Right. So it's been designed in purpose to fail. That's the whole point I was getting at. Correct.
Well, I disagree. I disagree with Darth. I think God knew that Adam and Eve would fail, but that brought as a consequence that God is able now to demonstrate his redemptive power, his grace, and his love.
That's equal to oh shit, I fuck up. I better rectify it.
That seems to be an unnecessary plan.
Correct.
Very unnecessary.
Correct.
I just want to say something. Like, if a person were to do half the shit God does, we call that person abusive and a monster. Why in the fuck, we saying that God is good? Think about it.
Because
it's definitionally good.
No, it's very clear why he is good. He is good in his essence, in his nature, in the way he has revealed himself to us. And if he says that he is good, then he is good because he does not lie. And whatever he says, and whatever he says about himself, since he is truthful by definition, it is true. And so if he says that he is good, he is good. And he demonstrated that he is not only good, but he is also graceful, in the sense that he took the price for our sins on himself, paid on the cross for it, and we can go free if we surrender to his grace and love.
But that tells us nothing.
Is he saying that he's good because he's appealing to our sense of right and wrong, or is he saying he's good because he's God, and God by definition is good?
No, he is good because in his essence and in his nature, he is good.
So by definition, right? There isn't some good that God doesn't live up to goodness, right?
No, he is good as that is his essence.
Okay. So it wouldn't matter if he
essence is to be good. There is no darkness in his pure life.
What makes his nature good, or his essence good?
His love, his righteousness, his grace, gracefulness.
And what makes his gracefulness good?
Sorry?
He's a good ballet dancer. That's what makes God graceful.
It's circular. Can't you see that? Every time you appeal to some property of God.
Yes, it is circular.
Every time I haven't finished talking. Every time you appeal to some property of God, you're just appealing to another circular argument of that property, and that'll go on ad infinitum. So unless you think that God is an infinite regress of justification, then I have no idea why you're trying to infer that this is some reasonable count, because you reject infinite regress as a justification.
Or how is it supposed to be against the rest of us?
I just said I agree with you, Simon Scott. It is circular and has to be so, because somewhere it has to end. So God cannot swear upon a higher God. He has to swear upon himself, because there is no higher or bigger God beyond him.
He wouldn't.
So,
he wouldn't have to swear on himself.
So you can't prove that God is good then?
Of course, because he
there's no
says
standard by which he's good. That's what you're saying by that.
He sets the standard.
Yeah, but we've just agreed that that's circular, correct?
Well, but being circular is not negative as you try to portray it.
You appeal to his essence. Yeah, it is, because you have deliberately rejected that kind of reasoning as a reason for why the universe is natural.
But if he sets the standard, isn't that subjective to, subjective to God's whim?
Well,
if you want to say no, he's appealed to his essence first, right? And that started him down this infinite regress of justification, which he's he's trying to go back to the beginning and just say, actually, no, I'm not appealing to that. I'm appealing to a foundational. And if it's foundational, then it is definitional. You've already rejected that, so you're caught both ways.
And I read this statement here from No Direction. If God is good because he possesses good-making properties, then you can cut God out, and goodness is grounded on the virtues themselves. Otherwise, honesty is good only if God is honest.
Well, you cannot have goodness without an entity which is good. And if you remove God from the picture, on what entity do you attribute goodness? There isn't any anymore.
Right, but do you think something makes what properties make God good?
Well, he simply is. He defines himself as I am. So there is no more grounding. He is the grounding of everything.
By that definition, everything God. So when you say things like God can't lie, that doesn't apply. Lying would be good because if God lied, by definition, lying is now good.
Well, you're putting properties into an transparent box. Okay.
Funny how God has human properties.
Right. I wonder why.
No, it is actually the contrary. We are made upon the image of God.
What image is that? Hold on. Define the image.
Well, we can reason, we can think, we can speak, we can communicate.
We can lie, we can deceit, we can kill.
Yeah, so everything.
Right, we do that because we are fallen nature, but it isn't part
we do that
because
it is also God's nature.
So that, yeah, exactly.
No,
so
that's not God's nature.
Everything that is in us. Hold on. I'm going to say something. Everything that is in us is also in God. Unless. Hold on. Unless you want to make the argument, that God used to have two sides to him, good and bad, but he got rid of the bad by creating man.
When he created man, he said that he made us upon his image, but he also gave us the possibility to choose, and once we choose to disobey him, then we did fall, and that removed God's image from us, and we are not equal to him anymore.
Okay,
love is not an image. Love is not an image. Right? Are you talking about image? You equated image to a perception of behavior, right? Like love, hate, or whatever. Or are you talking about a physical image? You say we are made on the image. That means God has got human image, human physique of such.
No, I already said that. I already explained that he gave us some features which he has. He gave us the ability to speak, to think, to talk, to communicate.
No. That's not image. That's not an image. Are you talking about image? You're defining a property of our communication, of our being, right? Yeah, there's no image of love unless you put a blinking heart, right? Yeah. When you say image, what image? What is you're talking about an external stimuli, shall we call it? Right? That's you try to put in a bag external things and call it image of us, or we are the image of God. Right? What is the image? Is it us, physically us, or an attribute of us?
Well, I gave you the explanation. If you don't accept it, that's your problem.
So attributes is what the image is.
Yes.
Just say it.
Yes.
Right. So we as a human being or a human entity, right? We are not the image. Think about what you're just gonna say right now.
Holy crap, dude! Are you a robot?
What?
No, what I'm saying is, are we human beings or the or what? Or the extent? No, he's saying no. He's saying that the attribute is what we are the image of.
What?
I think what he's trying to say is that we, as an image, that we are not like anthropomorphic, as in having legs, head,
Right,
or everything that we see as an image. But what I believe what you're trying to bring in is that our reason, our I just
everything external.
I almost had it. Almost had it.
No, you had it.
Okay, apparently that was me. Sorry.
I think that with image, what he means is that we are made upon his likeliness.
Yeah, but what likeliness exactly? That's what I'm getting at.
I was trying to explain it, but you are interrupting me. Like for example, for example, God is conscious. He made us conscious as well. And what does that mean? It means that we have intellectual activity. We can calculate. We can think. We can form abstract ideas. We can imagine things. We have introspection. We have cognition. We have memories, awareness. We can experience things. We have intentions. We can choose things to do. We can create things. We can invent things. We can generate information.
Otangelo, you don't have to list all those things. Otangelo, everything comes from God, right?
You also got to take in the good and the bad.
Right, that's the problem. The entailment then eventually becomes a kind of a weird. There's a weirder aspect to this, a problematic one. That if all of these facts, and I've mentioned this one to you before, if all of reality is contingent upon God, and all these facts are contingent upon God, nothing would have come from Him. Then you end up having to deal with accounting for evil, which is something that Christianity is not good at addressing. Mm-hmm. Thus, the logical problem of evil and the philosophical problem of evil, etc.
There is no problem because God made us very good, and He put the tree of
we're condemned. We're condemned to hell automatically
into the Eden, and He said that we should not eat from that tree. And once we disobeyed Him, then something went. Something went broken, and that brokenness was inherited to us. So we are, as natural beings, in the team as broken beings in the team of Adam and Eve.
So evil. Are we? No, hang on, because you're.
I would like to finish my sentence.
I think you've been going for a long time.
Yeah, you've gone on for a long time, and you've dropped a lot of theological claims. So I'm gonna put this out there. First of all, if they're broken, it's because that's by design.
Right.
Right. Secondly,
that was the
point. Secondly, that's because it's part of God's redemptive plan. That's also a theological claim. The second problem with this thing then is that what it does is it grounds evil ultimately in human beings, and it makes humanity the ultimate source of evil. Right.
Well, the first one which disobeyed God was Satan in heaven, which aimed to become God and to take his place. So he was removed from heaven, and he was thrown out from heaven.
How do you know that?
When he created human beings, it was upon Adam and Eve to choose if they would rather than obey God or listen to the serpent, which seduced them to disobey God. So you cannot say that God is culpable or responsible for Adam and Eve's disobedience of His commands. They choose
It's not about culpability. I'm not trying to blame the thing. It's by design. Mm-hmm. It was built that way.
Let me answer. That's important. God created humans with free will, so we could freely choose if we would rather disobey God or obey His commands. So they had free will, and they chose
He was
God's commands.
I do want to say something.
Particular.
Is it? Hang on.
Narrative.
But let me try this. Is it a fact that evil exists, Otangelo?
Of course.
Okay. Is God capable of evil?
No.
Did God create everything in the universe, including the universe?
He created the universe, yes.
What accounts for evil? How do you ground evil?
Adam and Eve's disobedience of God's commands.
So
That's
now, see,
okay. That's
you guys hear me?
contradictory now.
No.
That means that evil ultimately is a fact that is contingent upon humans, and it's not somehow not contingent upon God, which humans are contingent upon.
Well, God created human beings with free will, which entailed the risk that they could eventually disobey God and then do evil. And that's what happened.
So evil is ultimately grounded in humans, which means God is not all ultimate. Of all the things that exist in the universe, evil as a fact is contingent ultimately upon human beings.
You need to define ultimate. What does Darth, for example, mean when he... Can I finish, please? So when Darth talks about ultimate, what he means is that everything is dependent on God's existence, and everything outside of God is not self-existent. The only being which is ultimate, and that means that was never created but is eternal and always was, is God. That's why he is ultimate. But from him, everything else derives.
It's the
you're not. I don't think you're following what I'm laying down. So I'm going to wrap this up. Yeah. What?
Real quick, I want to just add this point. Remember when Ontological was saying God is the consequent?
No, I was saying God was the consequent.
He agreed with you. Well, I'm talking to my brother on the computer. He agreed with that, right?
No.
Doesn't he agree that God is the cause?
I'm not agreeing with that. I'm not agreeing. What I am saying is that
so
God created the world. God created a world with human beings with free will, which had the freedom to choose.
No. But you're not addressing what I'm putting down. So I'm gonna wrap this up now because
if I could just finish up with one thing.
Go ahead. Well,
Sans. You also contradicted yourself there because earlier you said, and I quote, Satan created evil, right? Because Satan wanted to be God. Okay, so no, you can't just go, oh yeah, by the way, it was Adam and Eve, right? Sorry, that doesn't.
They were seduced.
That doesn't make any sense at all.
Well, they were seduced by the serpent's lies.
So did Satan have free will? Did Satan have free will?
Yes, of course.
Do the angels have free will?
I'm not sure. I think so because he was an angel and he then chose to compete with God, let's say, and he became who he is.
Why? Okay, that's good. So why did God have to create humans if he'd already created angels with free will?
I asked him once.
Thank you.
And with that, I think
it's just an infinite regress you're appealing to, and then you say it's you say evil exists definitionally because of free will.
And with that, we're going to let Simus. Simus blew a hole in that. I'm going to say that Simus has then got the final word. Thank you, Sir Funk. Anyone else?
Yeah, I'd like to have.
I did want to say something. From what I remember, the reason why God rebelled against. Sorry, the reason why Satan rebelled against God is because God created man and then told Satan, Lucifer, whatever the fuck, you know what I mean? This is my perfect creation and you should worship them. Now Satan or Lucifer or whatever the fuck. It's like, bitch, are you kidding me? I'm your perfect creation. So that's what I remember. Satan didn't want to be God or Gabriel, whatever the fuck you want to name him.
I don't know if that was technically put or not.
just to give you a little shit, we're not
actually believe in that particular narrative of the story.
What?
I would like to just say that I hope to have an opportunity in another forum to speak with Ontological and have a chance to get in word edgewise at a reduced pace of attack and response.
Yeah, you guys, Ontological, you should have a conversation with Bill.
I really love Ontological's current avatar, the wiener dog. It's awesome.
It's a good photo.
I'm just kidding.
All right, guys.
I love you.
I'm gonna wrap this up now. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you to the chat.
Yeah, thanks everybody in the chat.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Thanks everybody for showing up. Thank you everybody for jumping in the stream. Thanks to Ontological for being, Ontological. And for everybody else, I'm going to close this out. Everybody else, have a great weekend. Enjoy your time. I probably will not be back to doing this until sometime later next week. But
bye.
Have fun. Take care. God bless. Stay healthy.
Remember to like and subscribe to Jeff's channel. It's brilliant.
Like and subscribe. The dislikes.
We're already done.
Dislikes too. So, okay. See you, everybody.
Who would dare?
How do you